Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the recovery addict, and boy do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughing him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
9 out of 10 judges prefer watching the Recovery Addict live stream in their courtroom.
The fireworks are not done.
Now we're getting commentary on the case.
Is that correct?
Oh, for Trump's sake. I didn't ask you to interrupt me.
Good morning, welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict. Still trying to fight with my my volume levels everywhere. Just the music sounds quiet today. My voice sounds loud. Yeah, it's Tuesday and I'm feeling older today for some reason. I feel like a whole year has gone by. There's our audio. Britta's correcting me. I've got Chatterbox down, but Britta says that she was first. Let's see. So Britta and Chatterbox, congratulations. Let's put this up here. There we go. Britta, if you were first, I wholeheartedly believe you. Let's see. Britta was first. All right. Wonderful. Chatterbox, you were close. You were at the top on my list for some reason. But my computer's doing computery things. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Let's see. Greeners, breaking news. I was accidentally invited to Mod Chat, and I'm about to leak all the secret plans.
I was kicked back, taking it easy.
Greeners. That is funny, only because I was reading the news this morning. That is funny. That is hilarious. Yeah. The joke is that there are plans.
Happy birthday.
There are no plans. We're working on getting to court in just a minute. There are no plans. There's never a plan, Greeners. So yeah, spill tea. It's fun. Good morning, everybody. I would like to say that I got a good night's rest and I'm ready to go today. But if you follow me on Twitter, you know that's not true. Because I was posting on Twitter at 2:40 in the morning, and which is about the time that Ian Runkle was texting me as well, saying, "Oh, it was your birthday, right?" So thank you, Ian. I appreciate the birthday shout out on Twitter. He did not wake me up. It was not his tweet that woke me up. It was that dang mockingbird, the same one that was like the quarter to midnight, and it was singing outside my window. Well, he's back, and he's stepped up his game. 2:30, just going off like a car alarm and just not stopping. I went down and I filmed my microwave
back, taking it easy
at 2:36 a.m. and then panned over to the window just so you could see it was pitch black outside. And you can hear this bird just going. Yeah. So I'm looking for an excavator to take out all shrubbery, trees, brush, grasses, or anything else that Mockingbird could perch on in my yard to make it go sing somewhere else. I'm going to zero-scape the yard, I think, is what we're going to do. It's come to this. It's come to this. To kill a mockingbird. Now I understand what Gregory Peck was all about. I feel it. It's, anyway. It was a rough night. It was a rough night. You need a space laser. That's what it does. Is there a way to do global settings capture once you get things back to normal? If not, no. Don, that would be awesome if I could just hit a button, like up here on my World of Buttons keyboard, and just say, okay, it's on this page over here. We're going to go like this and like that, and everything comes back. It doesn't work like that. I wish. That would be easier. Wouldn't it be easier to relocate the bird? It would be easier for me to relocate than to relocate the bird. The bird, when you get close, it flies away. I thought birds couldn't see at night. That's why it doesn't know it's nighttime, apparently, because it is dark out there. It should open its eyes and see that it's not time to sing. Anyway, We have a couple birthdays to sing to. You missed it by a day. Sorry, folks. The good day was yesterday. No, just kidding. Yesterday was my birthday, and thank you very much for all the birthday remarks. I went to the post office. They're a little slow in delivering stuff to me, so it was other than the pen I got from Greeners, it was empty. So I will go back again. They're just a little slow. Give them time. Teach the bird to sing lullabies. Apparently, it's been listening to car alarms instead, and that's what it mimics. So. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. All right, where are we? I was watching Daniel Arms from Arms Family Homestead because he's got a pond build thing this morning. I almost was late for my own live stream. Let's do the birthday things, which are right here. Thank you very much for this. By the way, I fixed a couple things. I got audio working. For my little bit thing that I need to do. Hang on one second.
It's bigger than you. It's bigger than me. It's bigger.
Oh, I thought I'd fixed that one. I deleted the whole thing and tried to fix it, and it apparently didn't. Okay. So I got audio working for my replay machine. Unfortunately, I just noticed that when I connected it to the wrong output. So you guys see this view, which is not nearly as helpful as, it still works. I can still play things, and it will.
Now, Detective, you also had an opportunity to review the video of the reenactment. Is that right?
Yes. Sent me a video of roaches fighting.
And were you able to see the damage to the screen that was caused on the test screen in that video?
No.
Okay.
No.
How would you compare the screen from the test video with the actual screen that we saw in the photographs that were provided?
Your Honor, my understanding, she just said no, and I don't understand the follow-up question. Ms. Sorgan?
I'm going to back up a little bit then. Reestablish there. Okay. Sergeant Asham, you were able to observe the screen in that video, correct?
Yes.
All right. And were you able to see the condition of it from that video?
Yes.
Okay. Did you then compare the condition of that screen to what you saw in the photographs of the screen that was actually provided by Marty and Al?
That's the
Okay.
real one.
How do the two compare?
The actual screen from the crime scene was more damaged than the screen from the reenactment video.
What? That's what I thought she said the other day.
How do you compare?
The actual screen from the crime scene was more damaged than the screen from the reenactment video.
Okay.
She completely testified wrong, and the state just said, okay, that's good. She didn't catch that. The state just wasn't listening to her answers at all. All right, well, let's go back. We were going to do birthdays. Where are they at? Right here. Let's get the birthdays underway. Are they on the screen? They are now. All right, we are going to sing to Jude, Victoria C., Annabelle, and Kinners 42 who are celebrating their birthday today. Everyone stand up, take a deep breath, shoulders back, project your voice to the back of the room. Warm up with me, if you will. That was loud. If you will. Warm up with me, if you will. La 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 la. That'll have to do. Here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jude, Victoria C., Annabelle, Kinners 42, and Robert. Happy birthday to you. You thought I was going to miss Robert. Happy birthday, Robert Dawson. Thank you very much. I saw it in the last minute and managed to fit it in. To everybody who's celebrating a birthday today, happy birthday. This is your wonderful day. I should know because I had mine yesterday, and it was wonderful as well. Other than how many calories I consumed. But don't worry, they don't count on your birthday. Everyone told me this about 1,000 times. So as soon as I convince my scale of that same fact, we'll be happy. Thank you for celebrating with us. I realize there are a million places you could be, a million people you could have been with, but you're here celebrating with us. The privilege and the pleasure is all ours. Hopefully we can make your day a little more special or help yourself to free pancakes at Denny's, IHOP, Village Inn, Waffle House, McDonald's, Tammy Dunlap's house, Bob Evans, and Andy's Grill. There you go. Not the best morning routine I've done, but we got through all of that part. Happy birthday. Now all we have left to do is watch the dancers do the cha-cha-cha and do a big drum finish, which is a couple verses away, so we can chill for a bit. Awesome. You made it in time for the drum solo. You got time. Here we go. Everyone grab your air drum stick, sit down to your air drum set, get ready to do a big drum finish. Even if you've never played before, today is the day to nail it. Beautiful. Happy birthday. What do you get for my birthday? You guys are going to laugh. At me. First of all, I'm not a big gifts person because I buy everything that I like, and you see it all in front of me on the table. Okay, this is what I like. My wife said to me, "What would you really like on your birthday?" And I said, I told her she was going to laugh. I said, I need a softer bike seat for my bicycle. I need a seat that has a little more support and a little more give, both at the same time. By support, the seat needs to be bigger and a teensy bit softer. So the tush interaction is not quite so precise, as if we could say. I need the wide saddle. I need the lazy boy style. But then at the same time, I need the gel topper. And if you could make it look cool while doing all that, that would be great. And sure enough, she found one, and it's I'm not sure if I'm going to show you. It's not something I'm proud of, but oh my goodness, I'm going to appreciate this every single time I ride my bike. So that's what we got. She got me a bike seat that I love. I don't even want to give you the link to it. We were joking. I said I probably need this one over here, and there's a bike seat you can buy that is like a, I don't know how you describe it. Okay, say you went to the beach, okay, and you plop down on the sand, nice smooth sand. You just plop yourself down, take a pop a squat, take a seat right there, and it may leave an impression. The bike seat is like actual size. Like you take the reverse of the impression, that's the bike seat. But they made one. They make one where you can actually get like the back support as well. It's a full-on chair that sits on top of the bike, and I could not bring myself to buy that one. Although I thought, oh, that would be cool, but no. Anyway, do you want a custom mold? No, thank you. I don't even know how you'd go about getting that, but custom molded bike seat. Fits perfect. Fits like a glove. Is that what they say? Oh, you guys are the best. Anyway, my wife's amazing. She got me a bike seat. So you need a recumbent bike. No, I'm worried people will hit me. Because the reason why I feel that way is because right now it's hard to miss if I'm upright. I'm on a tall bike, first of all. It's a giant bike. I'm a tall guy myself. I'm 6'2". So I ride a bike that is an extra large framed bike, and it happens to be 29-inch tires. So it's basically the monster truck version of mountain bikes with a big tall guy riding it. If I were to go nearly prone in a recumbent bike, I would just look like an overgrown speed bump at that point, and I would miss. I have a penny farthing. It's like a penny farthing, but the back wheel is the same size as well. So it's like farthing instead of, well, no, it's like penny. Which one's the big one? I don't know. Anyway, it's there's no joke. This unfortunately, this is the funny part, is real life. This is how it goes. I'm getting older, and I'm starting to feel it. So, but exercise is important. I'm trying to do better on that. Aside from my diet yesterday on my birthday, which I was told did not count, we're going to do better on that. So, plus I've got to walk like 20 miles in January, carrying camera equipment in full costume, filming people, and I need to be fit for that. Welcome everybody. Hope you all had a fantastic day yesterday. Big grunt from the judge.
When you're ready.
We're ready. We're ready, Judge.
North Central Judicial District is again on the record. The time is 32 minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock. Today's date is March 25th, 2025. My name is Richard L. Haggard, District Court Judge. This is the time and place set for a continuation of the State of North Dakota versus Nichole Rice trial. File is 512022CR421. Ms. Rice is present along with her counsel. State is represented by counsel. The jury is not present. We were in the middle of, I believe, Mr. Coons' testimony. Ms. Sorgan, anything before we bring in the jury?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Sand? No, Your Honor. Is Mr. Coons still here? He is.
Yes, he is, Your Honor.
All right, then we'll bring in the jury, please.
All right. Well, they bring the jury in. We have moved on from the state's case in chief to the defense's case, and I will say this: while the state has some compelling points, I'm not sure if I'm to proven yet. I have to go over them again in my head. I am okay with the conviction on purely circumstantial evidence. I think that's. I think I may differ from a lot of you on that. I'm okay with that. I mean, I was okay with Zachariah Anderson conviction, just with one tiny little speck of DNA that shouldn't have been where it was. So I'm okay. I can reach a conviction fairly easily, I think. But I'm not sure. What I will say though is that I was thinking about this again last night. With every time the defense sort of threw up a red flag and yelled and screamed, the state countered it.
Call the jury.
State waives roll call, Your Honor.
Mr. Sand?
Waive roll call, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Coons, you want to come on back up here, please? You're still under oath, sir. All right, Mr. Sand, you may continue.
Alyssa,
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Now, Agent Coons, we were in the middle of your testimony yesterday when we broke for the day, so I'd like to resume that. We were going through the suspects that you had laid out in your prior testimony. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. And the last suspect that we had wrapped up with was Michael Van. Do you recall that?
I do.
And prior to that, we had discussed Ms. Rice and Tyler Schmalz. Do you remember that?
I do.
Okay. Now, just a couple things regarding Ms. Rice. You were present in the courtroom for Sergeant Asham's testimony, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you were present regarding her testimony that had to do with Nichole's interviews?
Yes.
Now, there's an interview from March 12th, 2022. Can you tell me a little bit about your takeaway from that interview?
That was the interview conducted in conjunction with the cold justice investigators.
Okay. Were there any, and we had previously discussed the read tactics. Were that used in this interview?
Yes, that's the same one.
Can you explain that again?
So read is a school of thought of interviewing. It's designed in a way that you ask questions to get a specific response, and those responses can
Your Honor, I need to object at this point. There's been no foundation to qualify the witness as an expert in interrogation, specifically the read technique, just in investigations. Those are two very different fields.
A little late, Mr. Nelson. He already talked about it at 4:15 yesterday, so he may continue to answer, but you've already covered it, Mr. Sands, so can you move on?
Sure. Thank you, Your Honor. Now, you had testified previously that Sergeant Asham took the stand and stated that she wasn't familiar with the entire file. Do you remember saying that?
It did not seem to me she was familiar with the file.
Okay. Now, in this particular interview from March 12th, there's some statements regarding a bowl in the sink. Do you recall that?
I do.
In your expert opinion, can you state to the court what your takeaway was from that portion of the interview?
The bowl in the sink with the dirty water was present when Nichole was walked through the apartment.
Okay, and there's been some testimony about withholding. What is withholding?
So withholding is intentionally not releasing information about a case so that it can be used to possibly identify those responsible.
Now, there's been a lot of testimony and things presented by the state about withholding, particularly the body, the knife, the stabbing, the bowl. What's your takeaway after reviewing this interview regarding the withholdings?
Well, the bowl, for sure, is not something that would have been unknown to her because she saw it there when she was brought in to see if anything was missing from the apartment.
Is this something that Case Agent Asham, do you think, should have known before taking the stand?
I would think so. I mean, when you're the case agent, you got to know your case inside and out. It doesn't matter if you're splitting up responsibilities with another investigator. You know, you may split it up. I'm going to do these 6 interviews, you do these 6 interviews, but you've got to know your whole case. You've got to have a firm grasp of what you have there. If someone lies to you, how are you going to call them out on that if you're not aware of the entirety?
Just throwing some shade here.
I'll leave it at that.
Well, it's interesting you bring up lying. There's been a lot of testimony about Nichole's inconsistencies. Do you recall hearing about that?
I do.
Especially about the timeline regarding the weekend of the murder.
Yes.
Can you please, in your expert opinion, explain to the court your expert opinion regarding the inconsistencies in that timeline?
So yes, I agree, as I said before, that there are inconsistencies. However, I feel they are irrelevant. So it boils down to she is in pocket by someone all day until about 11:30 after watching a movie with her cousin. Now, at that point, she states she goes home, sleeps on the couch, and the next thing is that she encounters her father early the next morning. So we know from the phone records that Anita was likely killed somewhere around 5 o'clock on Sunday morning the 3rd. Getting my dates mixed up here. Would be Saturday the 3rd, and the screen was found around 7:30 that same morning. So Nichole would have had to have gotten up 4:30 to get from Velva to Minot, undetected by anybody else that's in the house, commit the murder, clean up, get back home, again undetected, get back to sleep on the couch, wake up, spend the rest of the day as if nothing happened, going out on the four-wheelers, checking on the cattle, shooting gophers, whatever they did that day. And I just don't buy that.
And I apologize, in your answer, you said that you got a little confused about the days. I think it was Saturday and Sunday. Could you clear that up for the court just to make sure that we have a clear record?
Yeah, so it's Saturday the 3rd.
Are you sure about that?
I'm sorry. No, I'm not. It's Saturday is the 2nd, Sunday is the 3rd.
Okay,
Sorry.
And so that being
That's
said,
terrible.
and Your Honor, I apologize. I don't want it to be asked and answered, but given the fact that now it's Saturday is the 2nd, Sunday is the 3rd, can you please, this is important, can you please state again your position on any inconsistencies in the timeline?
So again, the inconsistencies are all prior to the time in question. And the Saturday, starting at the home in Velva, going to the family event in Sykeston, going to the bar in Russo, going to the cousin's house to watch a movie, possibly once back and forth to the home in Velva to get cheese dip, and then back to the home. That all occurs Saturday And so it's after 11:30.
He doesn't know the dates.
Up until the point of the murder that's in question.
And in investigating this case, to the best of your personal knowledge, you testified about Nicole's parents' home. You testified about the bar and grill in Russo. You testified about the cousin's house where they watched the movie. How close in proximity are these places to each other?
It seems, from looking at a map, that from Velva to Sykeston is quite a ways. I don't know how long it takes to get there, but
and that's where the party was.
Yes,
on Saturday.
The going away party for the cousin heading off to Iraq. I think it's an hour and a half, 2 hour drive from there, and then back to Russo. That's another long drive, and I believe Russo is pretty close to Velva, is my understanding.
Okay. And as far as where she watched the movie and her parents' house?
My understanding it's about a 5-minute ride.
Okay. Now, the state has challenged your credibility quite a few times as an expert. That being said, how many crime scenes in your career as an FBI agent would you say you've processed?
I'm going to take a stab here, 20 to 30.
Okay. Now, there's been some testimony in this case, testimony by Sergeant Asham, when you were here regarding whether or not this break-in included a robbery. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Now, you recall Sergeant Asham testifying about Nichole doing an inventory of her own items, correct?
Correct.
Now, if items were stolen from Anita's room, who would be the best person to tell law enforcement what was missing?
Anita would if she were available.
And what type of items, in your expert opinion, you just said that you processed, a couple dozen crime scenes. What type of items would you be looking for to be missing?
Money, jewelry, other valuables, anything really. Just anything, obviously. A TV, something that could be resold. Could be anything.
Now, the smaller stuff like cash and jewelry, and I don't mean small in value, I mean small in actual physical size. Is that something that you think Nichole would know?
I don't think so.
One more question regarding Ms. Rice. You had testified earlier that it was not impossible to rule her out as a suspect. Can you please elaborate to the court what you meant by that?
So it's not impossible. So we can't, nobody has eyes on her between 11:30 to, I think, about 8 o'clock the next morning. So her account that she went home, went to sleep, next thing she recalls is encountering her father who was up. So it's during those hours that you don't know for sure where she was at. We don't have the CSLI, the cell site location information that puts her phone anywhere. Now, just because the CSLI puts the phone somewhere doesn't mean the person's with the phone, but it's a good indication. And was it moving? Was it bouncing from tower to tower? But we don't have that. So I can't say where she was for sure, so it's not impossible.
Is it fair to say that, given your testimony regarding the timeline of events that weekend, that it's improbable, if not highly improbable?
Yes.
Now, I'd like to move back to your list. Like I said, we had gone through Nichole Rice, we had gone through Tyler Smalls, we had gone through Michael Vann. There were two more names on your list, the next person being Marty Annell. Do you recall that?
I do.
Okay, tell me what you learned about Marty Annell through your investigation in this case.
Marty was the property maintenance man and was in a relationship with the property manager, Laura Knapp. He is the person who found the screen window knocked out of the frame, took it back to his shop for repair, found it while making rounds on a Sunday morning between 7 and 7:30, according to his statement.
What are your thoughts about rounding on Sunday morning?
It seems awfully early on a Sunday morning to be doing rounds, routine work.
As an investigator, what are your thoughts about a maintenance man finding a screen off of the window, curtain rods off of the window, and then throwing the rods back into the apartment.
I find it odd that more wasn't done to find out if something was wrong.
Why is that?
If I see a window broken out of the frame, maybe it's because I'm an investigator, but I'm automatically thinking break-in. And by the account that I read, he tossed the curtain rod and the curtain that was laying there with it through the open window. And I don't recall if he hollered in or anything, but didn't notice the body that was probably within arm's reach of him at that point, and just takes it off to a shop to repair. I find that unusual.
Now you mentioned the screen, and there's been some testimony from in the state's case in chief that there was DNA found on the screen. It's their position that DNA was transferred from the knife. Be that as it may, as far as DNA being on the screen, can you please, in your expert opinion, explain to the court what your thoughts are on that?
So it could have come from the knife post-mortem. Clearly, it got there post-mortem because it was Anita's, but it didn't have to come from the knife. I think whoever did this came in through an unlocked door, turned it behind them, committed the act, cut the window, tried to climb through, maybe got an elbow or a foot caught on it, and pulled it the rest of the way out, and then fled. It doesn't make sense if you're going to stage a crime scene that you will cut it and then proceed to knock it out. Why would you do that?
Now you testified about the door. Are you 100% certain that somebody came in through the door? Is there a possible other entrance?
No, I'm not 100% certain. They could have come through that window. It is possible to do.
Okay. Now, as far as the door goes, what does entrance through the door tell you about this case?
Entrance through the door tells me that they either had a key or it was unlocked or she let them in.
Any possibility of picking lock or anything like that?
Or it could have been picked, or there could have been a key under the mat, or somebody could have been given a key that we don't know about. We just don't know is the short answer.
And Marty Annell had a key, correct?
He did.
Okay. And you testified that you reviewed the interviews of Laura Knapp in this case, correct?
Yes.
After reviewing those interviews, did you learn anything about the doorknob?
So when Anita's father came and was trying to get her attention, I have to believe that he checked to see if the door was locked, although that's not clear. He went to get the property manager to help him, who had a key, and she was able to get the door open. But there, in her statement, it's still not clear. She didn't check to see if it was unlocked before she put the key in. Now, it's a deadbolt, which is not integrated with the actual handle, which does not have a lock on it. So you can put the key in and turn it, but it could already be unlocked. Again, I just don't know. My point is it's possible that it was unlocked.
Excuse me.
I think it probably was locked, but again, I can't say for sure.
And during your review of the case, you had an opportunity to review the reenactment that police conducted, correct?
Yes.
What did you notice in that reenactment?
And you're not talking about the Spingola reenactment, right?
No, I'm talking about the reenactment by Minot Police, where they went in and out of the court has seen it, where they went in and out of the screen. There was a couple detectives, and then they had a female staff member help them with it.
Correct. Yeah, it's possible to do. And, there is debris under there, but also, as stated and in the pictures, you can see the bed is right there. You don't have to touch the floor to get in there.
And we're going to get into Devin Hall in a little bit, but after reviewing the case, it sounds like Devin Hall's a professional break-in guy. Is this something that would be difficult for somebody like him?
Hard to say. It's hard to say that he's a professional, as the prosecution stated. He's not real good at it. He gets caught. But, he was a young guy at the time. I think it's definitely a possibility.
Now, what did you learn about Marty and Elle's personal life after reviewing the case?
He had issues in his personal life, reported to be an alcoholic, had been in and out of jail, some minor drug use, relationship issues. It was reported that he was never the same after Anita died. He had a collection of knives that he kept in a box. And at one point he told his best friend, Vern Olson, that he had done something really bad but didn't elaborate on that. And it was the next day that he killed himself.
And it's fair to say after reviewing the file that Marty said that he was never the same after Anita's death?
That's what he told Vern Olson in the audio that I listened to.
Now, Sergeant Asham had also testified that Marty had no means to commit this crime. What are your thoughts on that statement?
Can you repeat, please?
Yes, Sergeant Asham had testified earlier that Marty Annell had no means to commit this crime. What are your thoughts on that statement?
I'm not even sure what that means.
Okay. As an investigator, do you think that Marty had the ability and the access to be in that apartment?
Yes.
Now, moving on to the final suspect that you had mentioned, Mr. Hall. What did you learn about Devin Hall in your course of reviewing this case?
So Devin Hall arrived in Minot on June 2nd. There's some dispute on that, but by everything that I've reviewed, it's my assertion that he arrived in Minot on or before June 2nd.
Okay. Now, you testified that there's been testimony about June 2nd. Do you mean that there's been testimony that he arrived the following day?
Yes.
Okay. Why do you think that he arrived on June 2nd or earlier?
Well, he said so in his first interview, and then later changed it to, well, it was the 2nd or 3rd, and then later changed it to, well, it was the 3rd or the 4th. I reviewed documents and listened to testimony that Nova Wetsit, I believe his aunt, said no, it was on the 3rd and provided a video in support of that. However, the time stamp on that video is, I believe, January 1st of 2000. So the date had not been set. There's nothing to indicate on that video what the date was that it was recorded. And the copy that I read is a digital copy of an analog tape. So it was VHS. It's been converted into digital. There's no metadata. There's nothing to authenticate the date of that. Now, I've scoured that video for any kind of clues of when it could have been taken. You know, somebody holding a newspaper or anything. You know, the print would be awfully fine. But I didn't see anything.
And this video is from the train station?
This is from this train station.
And isn't it true in the video that never shows Devin Hall getting off the train on
Objection on their leading.
Overruled.
So the video shows a group of people walking from the train, but I never see him getting off of the train. So I see a group of young men, actually a lot of people, and within that group of a lot of people, this group that she seems to be focused on, and the camera is not very good. It's all over the place. I believe that's him walking away, but I don't know if he got off the train or if he met those people and is now walking to gather with his family.
And you had an opportunity during the case, or during the course of your investigation in this case, to review the train records, correct?
I did.
Do you remember them verbatim, or would it help you if I refresh your recollection?
I'll look at it.
Your Honor,
That's not the way it works. Ask him the question, Mr.
Sure, Your Honor. Do you recall looking at the train records?
I do.
Do you remember them verbatim?
No.
Still not the way to ask the question. He doesn't remember them verbatim. Do you have a question about the train records?
Sure, Your Honor.
Ask it.
After reviewing the train records, do you recall the dates that are on those train records?
There's a variety of dates, one of which is June 2nd and June 3rd.
Okay, on June 2nd, do you see Devin Hall's name on the train records?
I do not.
Do you see other people's names from his group on those train records?
I do.
Do you recall those names?
Jaron Vivier, Nova Wetsit. I believe there's a couple others, but I don't recall.
Now, that's not 100% what I'm seeing. Would it refresh your recollection if I showed you a copy?
It would.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
Thank you.
Now you did it right. You asked a question. He didn't know the answer. You can refresh his recollection. You can't just say, do you know everything on this document? No, let me show you. A couple people have been asking for a copy of the report. The reports involving the detective and McLeod. There are two reports. One is spicier than the other. I shared the first one, not the spicier one. I've got the second one for you here. Thanks to Amber for shortening the link for me, because I'm technologically impaired in that manner right now. Let's see. Let me get you that.
Okay. Did that refresh your recollection?
It did.
He had stated that you had seen Jaron Vivier on these records. Isn't it true that he's on these records in May, correct?
Correct.
He's not on the train in June, correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, he's at the very top, and that's a different date.
And after looking at this, is it fair to say, or did you see Devin Hall's name on it?
I did not.
Okay. And did you see anybody's name that you recognized?
I did.
And who's that?
There's a couple of Wetzits on there. I believe there's a Romero that I recognized. I feel like he was one of their friends or family, but I can't recall for sure.
And those two individuals were on the June 2nd train.
Correct.
Which is Saturday.
Correct.
Okay.
It's still too big. It's not working. Amber, help. Can you hear that in chat? The second one?
And there's been testimony that Anita wasn't killed until the early hours of Sunday morning, correct?
I'll put it in the
Correct.
description.
So that would give that group time to get to Minot.
Thanks, Cash.
It would.
Whether or not Devin Hall's name's on this, if he was traveling with that group, he would have been in Minot by the 2nd.
Correct.
There's been some testimony about Mr. Hall's arrest in Minot a number of days after Anita's murder. Do you recall that?
I do.
Did you look into that at all in your review of the case file?
Yes, I did.
And what are your thoughts on that?
So on June 11th, Mr. Hall was arrested. He had broken into an apartment through the window and attempted to sexually assault a woman there. She cried out. Her boyfriend came running in, chased him back out of that window. A fight ensued. He ran away again, entered yet another apartment in the same complex, and was ultimately caught hiding in a closet with a steak knife in his back pocket.
Was he taken to jail after that?
He was.
In your review of the file, did you find anything about jail calls?
I did.
What did you find out about that?
Several jail calls were recorded to family members. I believe there were 2 family members on one call, and then there was a separate call. In both instances, he claimed the knife as his own, and not just any knife. He said that was his knife.
Now, during a review of the file, have you had an opportunity to look at photos of the murder weapon, the knife in this case?
I have.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
I'm going to put both the first and the second one in the description. I'm just fighting with the second link. Give me a second. We'll have it on the description of the channel or the video today. Altogether, it's about 160, 170, 180 pages worth of reading. Some good stuff.
Now, Agent Coons, I'm going to put... Am I getting picked up here?
Barely.
Now, Agent Coons, I'm going to show you a couple photographs that have already been entered into evidence in this case. They're State's Exhibit 7I and 7J. Can you please take a look at those for me and then let me know when you've had a chance to review them?
Yes, I've seen these.
Can you please explain to me what I just put?
This is the murder weapon, the knife that killed Anita.
Okay. And Is this the knife that Devin Hall identified as being in his possession?
He did, and it's very identifiable in that it's missing the emblem on the other side. So I know a lot of these knives were made, a lot of them were sold. I don't know how many were sold in the state of North Dakota or Montana, and I don't know how many of them would be missing exactly the same medallion that he agreed was missing from his own knife. So this is the knife that Devin claimed was his.
And I'll keep those up there with you. Is the missing medallion the only thing that's unique about the state of this knife?
No.
What
I mean,
else?
it's pretty, I've never seen one like it until this case. It's a folding pocket knife. It's fairly large. It's got a decorative handle. It's kind of copper colored. There's very many things that are unique about this knife.
Now, Sergeant Asham had testified that this is a very common knife. What, in your experience as an investigator, what is the coincidence of something like this, the missing medallion, knife being used in a murder, and then another person possessing the same type of knife that had a missing medallion in a case like this?
Astronomical.
Can I have those back, please? Agent Coons, can you describe, well, first of all, have you seen photographs of Devin Hall?
I have.
Can you describe him to the court?
He's over 6 foot tall, I think 6'2", 6'3", maybe, at most, 6'2", I believe. 200 plus pounds. At the time, well, can you specifically now or then?
At the time.
At the time, he looks fit, about 200 pounds, 6'2", short hair, dark hair. I don't know what color his eyes are. It matches the description given by Becky Ehrman of a person that she saw running away from the scene that night.
Now, I had asked you if you'd seen photographs. Have you also reviewed descriptions of Devin Hall in the case file and reports and such?
I have.
Now, you mentioned Becky Ehrman. There's been testimony about Ms. Ehrman seeing a man running away from the scene with what could have been a bloodied shirt, a dirtied shirt.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
Again, highly coincidental that a person matching the description almost to a T of Devin Hall seen running away from the area of the crime scene with a dirty or bloody shirt is something I, as an investigator, am going to thoroughly pursue.
Now, there's been some testimony presented by the state about the criminal history of Devin Hall. Did you have a chance to look into that?
I have.
What can you tell the court?
Since Anita's death, he has been convicted of 4 counts of similar crimes on 3 separate incidences.
And what types of crimes are those?
Breaking into apartments and sexually assaulting women or attempting to.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier that when he was arrested in Minot, he was found with a knife.
Yes.
And
different knife, but a knife, yep.
Sure. Given everything that you reviewed in this case, well, strike that. I'm going to come back, Your Honor.
Not ready to sum up.
What law enforcement agencies were involved in the investigation in this case?
Multiple. There was the Minot PD, the North Dakota BCI, tribal law enforcement, and federal law enforcement, the FBI.
The FBI?
Correct.
What was the FBI's involvement in this case?
FBI was mostly a consulting role. materials were provided to the Behavioral Analysis Unit, which are commonly known as profilers. They were looking for assistance in identifying who might be responsible for this.
Did they have any suggestions?
They did.
What was that?
They felt the strongest suspect in this case was Devin Hall.
This is the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
It is.
Now, you might be a little biased towards the FBI, obviously spending 22 years there, but what type of weight did you garner from that when you read that in the case file?
A lot. In addition to their assessment, it was my own assessment as well, independently.
So just to follow up on that, in your expert opinion, what is Devin Hall's connection to this case?
I believe he's the most likely suspect, in my opinion, and if I were investigating this, I would tie down a lot of these loose ends that they've left open.
And you had testified earlier that this was not one of the four suspects that, when the investigation was reopened with Cole Justice and they were assisting Sergeant Asham, he was not on the list.
He was not on the list, and I was dumbfounded as to why isn't the person that appears to me as the strongest suspect not even visited in this show.
How would you rate the overall investigation in this case?
I hate to be critical, but not very good.
Why is that?
There's a lack of attention to detail. There's a lack of thoroughness. They seem to spend a lot of attention running down dead-end rabbit holes while glossing over some very important facts, details.
What, if anything, about this case piques your interest?
I don't think we have the correct person being charged, in my opinion, and being a law enforcement background and a person that investigates for a living, I would like, if given the opportunity, I would like to investigate this further. There's a lot more work to do.
But it'll cost you.
Questions I have, Your Honor. Thank you very much, Agent Kuntz.
Did he say to a degree of professional opinion?
Which one? Mr. Nelson, do you have any cross-examination?
I do, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Mr. Coons, do you have a Twitter handle?
I do.
Is that at @dcoons?
That sounds right.
Okay.
That's
I was looking at it this morning. I saw a tweet that you sent out on December 1st of 23. I'm going to read it to you, and you tell me if you agree with this, because it was your statement.
Okay.
A professional investigator seeks evidence, then forms conclusions. Comer, Jordan et al. Form conclusion, then seek evidence. It's like pounding a square peg into a round hole and saying, see, it fits.
Yes.
That sound accurate?
That sounds accurate.
Okay.
That's also what I see in this case.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you said that, because we're going to go through quite a few things here. Now, you testified right at the beginning yesterday that you have done, or did, approximately 100 total investigations in your time with the FBI.
It's an estimate for sure.
You were an agent for 22 years?
Yes.
That's somewhere between 4 and 5 a year.
That's probably right. It's probably on the low side, putting it that way.
Okay. On the low side, meaning that you weren't a very busy FBI agent?
No, not at all.
Okay.
The first 6 years I worked in Sioux Falls.
Mr. Coons, there wasn't a question before you.
Okay.
You did 15 murder investigations.
Roughly, yes.
With those, now since you were FBI, I'm assuming those probably took place on native reservations?
Most of them did, yes.
Okay. Now, were you the lead on those investigations?
Some of them.
How many were you the lead on?
I'm going to say 6.
6 of those?
Roughly.
Okay. Did you testify in those trials?
Yes.
Were you called the case agent in those trials?
Yes.
Did you have to listen to an expert badmouth your investigation?
Objection, argumentative, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Yeah, but it's a legitimate question.
I believe so. I believe a couple times.
Okay. So you've heard other people Monday morning quarterback your investigation?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, I was a little confused on something that you testified to yesterday, and I'd like you to clarify. You said that you reviewed the entire file.
Yes.
Okay. But then you also said that some of the pages you felt weren't that important. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Some of the pages being more important than others.
Correct.
Okay. So did you personally review the whole file, or did your team, Veracity IIR, review the whole file?
I personally at least glanced at every document.
Okay. Now you talked about false leads yesterday.
Yes.
Okay. And that there were quite a few false leads in this case.
Yes.
Did you listen to any of the testimony from Detective Goodman?
No.
Okay. So you're not aware that, for example, there was a false lead, and actually it's in the file, about a person who they thought could have done it potentially, but was in jail for 10 days on either side, or 5 days roughly on either side of the murder.
I remember something about that. I don't remember the name of the person. It's one of those things that, you have to glance at it to deem it important or not. It's probably something that I looked at, set over here in this pile.
So the answer to that is yes.
Correct.
Okay. Now, did you listen, as part of your review for this file, or for testimony today, did you watch the Laura Knapp testimony?
No.
Did you review the deposition that she gave?
No.
So you're unaware that her testimony was that the door was locked when she got there and she had to unlock the door?
Correct.
Okay.
Whoa.
And that she tried it before and still had to unlock it?
Correct. My testimony was based on the reports that I read in the discovery.
Okay. Again, I'm going to ask you to answer only the questions that were actually asked of you. Okay? Now,
remember how he wants to go into
Laura Knapp
what
testified.
documents he...
Your Honor, he has stated that he didn't watch the testimony of Laura Knapp.
Okay, but I'll let him ask the question first.
Let me back up just a little bit. You testified that hardware stores cut keys.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I've worked at a hardware store, so I can agree with that statement. But the testimony from Laura Knapp was that there was only one locksmith in Minot that had that key.
Okay.
So there was only one place you could get that key cut in Minot. Does that make sense?
In Minot.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. He did not watch the testimony of Laura Knapp. I'm not sure how he has personal knowledge of this. The witness has to have personal knowledge.
Overruled. He said specifically, ask him if he knew that, and if his answer is no, then he can't go on. So overruled. Keep going.
Okay.
He's a big guy, Mr. Sand. He can answer his questions.
Thank you, Your Honor.
If he can.
So I take it you're also unaware that she said that, or testified that you could only get that key cut with permission.
I'm not aware of that testimony.
Okay. I'm going to come back to something here because something that popped up at the very end of your testimony was that you felt that the Minot Police Department was, I'm not sure if I'm paraphrasing here, but glossing over important facts.
Yes.
You don't think that you can only get the key cut from one person and it has to be by permission is an important fact in this case?
It is if it could be determined.
That's
factual.
a yes or no question.
Yes.
Okay. So we agree it's an important fact.
Yes.
And you pretty much glossed over that, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay. Now,
he wants to answer. He wants to say more. That was a glance to the other side saying, ask me about that.
You've looked at a map of North Dakota.
I have.
Okay. And you know that Sykeston and Carrington are not the same place.
No, correct. I'm aware of that.
Okay. Just like Grand Forks, Fargo, Minot, Bismarck, they're not the same place.
Correct.
Okay. Do you know how far apart they are?
I don't for sure, but it's my understanding they are nearby.
Is this your first time visiting North Dakota?
Probably.
Okay. So you're not that familiar with our state?
No.
All right.
You're an outsider.
Now, you testified about Nichole's statements, and you pretty much have to believe everything Nichole says for her story to make sense, don't you?
No.
Why not?
I concede that there are inconsistencies in her statement.
Okay, so the story changed.
It did.
Okay. Do you think that a person who is potentially suspected of murder would know the story?
Yes.
Okay. But her story changed.
It did.
Okay. Now you testified about that she never went back to Minot, but by reviewing the case file, you know there's a statement in there that she did return to Minot.
One witness said that, yes.
Okay. So is that the reason why you said you can't rule out Nichole as the murderer?
Well, the reason you can't rule her out is because we really...
Again, that's a yes or no question.
You gotta let him answer, Your Honor.
Okay. It is a yes or no answer. We'll do that
Can you
first.
repeat, please?
Sure. Is that the reason you can't rule her out?
No.
Are there other reasons you can't rule her out?
There are.
Okay. Have you been to that farm outside Belleville?
I have not.
Have you driven? So you haven't been to that farm. Would it follow that you haven't driven from that farm to the apartment in North Minot?
I have not.
Okay. Now, you testified about the statement given to William May and the other people at that party. You recall that from yesterday?
I do.
Do you recall the statement that the defendant gave to William May and the other people at that party saying, "I did it"?
Can you repeat that, please?
That the defendant said, "I did it."
Yes.
Okay. And you discount that because there's no record of that phone call being made to the Minot Police Department as testified by William May?
No. I don't discount it.
You don't discount it?
No.
So you believe William May?
No. I just don't discount it.
Okay.
It's a piece of the puzzle.
A piece of the puzzle. Did you watch William May's testimony?
No.
Okay. So don't know that he said when he talked to her the next day, she didn't deny killing Anita. She denied saying that she killed Anita.
All I know about what Willie May said is from the discovery in his prior statement.
Okay.
He said, I don't remember
so that's
making that statement.
No, you don't know that.
Correct.
Okay. Are you a proponent of the Reed style technique?
Certain aspects of it, not in its entirety.
Not in its entirety, but certain aspects.
Correct.
So you think it's if you think that certain aspects of it are good, that it has some usefulness in law enforcement?
Yes.
So do you think there was any issue with detectives using the Reed technique?
No.
Okay. So that's not a problem for you?
It is not.
All right. Now, you testified about Tyler Schmaltz next. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
Okay. And that Anita kept him in the friend zone?
Yes.
And you testified about his Facebook?
Yes.
Now, you looked at the Facebook video and talked about the drawing that he made when I believe you testified he would have been about 10?
6th grade, whatever that is.
Okay.
I think that's 12, right?
And you said, I believe it's in your report as well here, that a person suspected of murder potentially would not do that.
I don't think that's exactly what I put, but...
Let me take a look here. Extremely inappropriate considering he knows he is a suspect of a stabbing murder.
Yes.
That sounds like you?
That's me.
Okay. You think it's inappropriate to say something about for him to have a stabbing thing?
For him to say what?
For him to have a stabbing thing that's Friday the 13th or whatever it is?
I think it's unusual, yes.
Okay. So let me ask you something. When you were on direct there a moment ago, let me find my notes. Didn't you say to Mr. Sand over there that you were going to take a stab at something?
In
seriously?
Meaning, I guess, yes.
Okay. You think that's appropriate in a case that involves a stabbing murder?
That was a poor choice of words, yes.
Okay. But you're an experienced investigator. 22 years as a law enforcement officer with the not with the Minot Police Department, of old habits there, with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and you would let something like that slip in trial?
Apparently.
Okay.
Okay, we're not going to bring up the report if you're an investigator, but let's bring up the phrasing.
You're aware that horror movies are big business.
I don't know anything about that.
You don't drive by movie theaters and see that they have horror movies or see
I know
ads
they
on
I
TV?
know they exist. I don't know about their big business.
Okay. They are, could we agree that they're a relatively popular genre, just like an action movie or romantic comedy, thing like that?
I'll agree to that.
Okay. So is it unusual for a person to like that sort of?
No.
Okay. Do you watch those movies?
I have.
Okay. Now, you testified at length about self-site location information.
Yes.
In your time with the FBI, did you procure cell site information?
Yes.
How did you do that? Did you do that in 2007, let's say?
I might have. I don't know for sure.
Okay. 2008?
I don't know the details, no. I've used it many times.
But you can't tell us when.
I can't tell you when.
Did you get that by subpoena or search warrant?
I believe I get those by search warrant.
Since when?
It just depends on the case. I may be incorrect. It may be just a subpoena is necessary for those. It depends on if you're going to get it from the phone and you're going to extract it using a Cellbrite or something similar. You have to have a search warrant for that. If you're going to get it from the phone company, it's a subpoena.
Cell site information comes from the phone carriers. You testified to that.
Yes. But
Okay.
you can also get it extracted from the phone itself.
But that's not what we're talking about. We're
Okay.
talking about the cell site information, which comes from the carriers.
Correct.
Okay. And you testified just now that you can get that by subpoena.
Yes.
Okay. You left the FBI in 2018?
Yes.
Are you aware about the Carpenter decision came down in 2015?
No.
The Carpenter decision was
Your
the
Honor,
U.S.
he
Supreme Court.
testified no.
Yeah, and now he's going to tell him what it is, so overruled.
The Carpenter decision was the U.S. Supreme Court saying that that
He's
information
testifying.
was very private and can only be received through a search warrant. That was 3 years before you left the FBI, and you're unaware of that.
I'm not aware of that.
So were you violating people's rights in the last 3 years of your FBI career?
No.
Okay.
Wow. Wow.
So you already testified you weren't watching the testimony of
Lots of water.
Detective Goodman. I take it you were not watching the testimony of Detective Barnard?
No, I was under sequestration at that time.
Okay.
Never heard it said
So
like that.
you weren't here or watching to hear that that bowl in the sink was emptied when they processed the crime scene.
No.
That bowl, that they processed the crime scene on the 4th of June.
I wasn't here.
Okay. But you testified that the defendant saw that bowl.
Yes.
That walkthrough with the defendant occurred after they processed the scene. You'd agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. So there's really no way that she could have seen that bowl if they would have emptied it and moved it. Is that accurate?
All I know is what I read in the transcript of Asham's interview with her.
He's He's not doing well on cross, this expert.
I'm asking you a logical question here. If they dumped that water into a couple of water bottles, as was testified to, and they had that bowl in evidence,
like solo
would
cups?
there have been any way for the defendant to see that bowl without knowing that that bowl was there ahead of time?
No.
Okay.
They used water bottles to store evidence? A couple of water bottles?
You testified that it was quite a way to go from Velva to Sykeston.
A couple hours, I believe.
Okay. But you haven't personally driven that.
I have not.
He's on
Just
cross.
like you said, it was a long drive to Russo.
Depends on from where. If you're coming from Sykeston to Russo, I would consider that a long way.
And you haven't driven that either?
I have not.
Okay. So because you weren't here and didn't watch the testimony, are you unaware that there was money visibly there in Anita's purse?
I don't recall that detail.
Okay. That would have been in the file as well.
I'm scanning my memory banks here. I believe I do remember that nothing appeared to be missing from her purse.
Okay. You don't recall that there was money that was visible in her purse?
I don't recall that, no.
Okay. Are you glossing over an important fact there again?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm glossing over an important fact.
Now you
Should have
testified.
glanced harder.
Oh, I'll just move on here. Let's talk about Marty here. Your testimony was that Marty found that screen on Sunday morning when he was doing the rounds between 7 and 7:30.
Yes.
Okay. You found that odd.
Yes.
I found that odd too because he found the screen on Monday morning. The 4th.
Okay.
You testified it was the 3rd.
Okay.
So are you getting the facts wrong again?
Apparently I did on that one.
Okay.
Oh, this is brutal.
Let me ask you something. You reviewed Marty's history?
Some of it, yes.
Okay. Now, Marty had some issues with law enforcement, didn't he?
Yes.
As far as being arrested a couple times.
Correct.
Okay. Was he an officer with any law enforcement agency?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Now, you're an expert in investigations.
Yes.
That means that you have specialized knowledge that the rest of the world doesn't have.
Correct.
You probably have knowledge that I don't have, and I fully admit that.
Okay.
Okay. Marty wasn't an investigator, was he?
No.
So he wouldn't have the same knowledge or basis for understanding things that you have.
No.
So, based on the fact that Marty clearly doesn't have a law enforcement background, why would you think he should have thought a crime took place here?
A screen broken out of a window that's also been cut. I think it doesn't take an FBI agent to feel that something might be wrong.
You haven't actually seen the screen itself, have you?
Not physically, no.
Okay.
Pictures only.
So you don't know if it's a cheap aluminum screen?
It appears to be, but I don't know.
Okay. Now, the testimony that we've gotten in this trial, and it's in that reenactment video, because you've watched that reenactment video, you said.
Correct.
And you heard Marty's voice in that video?
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you recall someone saying that the screen was in the window?
I think so, yes. That sounds
Okay.
right.
And that was testified earlier that that was Marty's voice.
Okay.
Okay. So, Marty told law enforcement that that screen was found inside the window.
Okay.
Okay. Now, do you have any way of knowing how often Marty would have had to replace screens at that apartment complex?
I don't. And can I ask a question?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
I get to ask the questions here. Let me just back up. You would have no way of knowing how often Marty had to replace screens at that.
No.
We have a sound effect for that.
Which means you wouldn't have any way of knowing if that was a common occurrence.
No.
Based on that, do you think it's possible that Marty didn't think anything of having you replace the screen?
Can you repeat that?
Based on the fact that you just testified, you don't know how often that Marty had to replace screens.
Correct.
And you just said it looked like it was a cheap aluminum screen.
Correct.
All right. You've been down to a Home Depot or Menards, Lowe's, what we've got around here.
Yes.
You've seen those screens.
I have.
Okay. And those kind of bend easily, don't they?
They do.
That's why they're cheap.
Yes.
Okay. Now it's a rental unit, right?
Yes.
Landlords typically put the cheapest thing in things that they can.
I think that's correct.
Some landlords.
You've rented apartments in your life?
I have.
Okay. In your experience, did they put pretty cheap stuff in those apartments?
Often, yes.
Mine as well.
You have rentals, sir?
Now, so you can't testify that it'd be unusual for him to take that screen to his shop. Except you did say that.
In the context of the case, if it's laying there broken, the unusual.
Mr. Coons, it was just we just agreed that it wasn't laying there. It was in the window.
I guess I don't understand your question.
Okay. You agree with me that we just established that Marty's statement was that the screen was inside the window.
Do you mean the screen was inside the frame or the whole screen unit was inside the window where it should be?
We're talking about the whole unit, bent and all. Marty's statement was that it was in the window.
Okay.
That was in that video.
Okay.
So you agree with me that that's what the evidence says. That when Marty found it, it was in the window.
I guess I'm recalling it differently. I feel like it was found on the ground.
Do you think it's important where that window screen would have been?
It is. I know he picked up.
Mr. Coons, there's no question before you right now.
Oh.
So I guess I'm just going to ask the same question I did before. Are you glossing over an important fact again?
No.
All right, then. You don't think that's an important fact, is that right?
It is an important fact.
I'm sorry, it is or is not?
It is an important fact.
It's an important fact, but the fact that you are discounting the person who found it where they said they found it is not?
No.
Okay.
He's got under his skin.
Now, you do agree with me, because you testified to it on direct, that DNA had to be put there inside the screen post-mortem.
Correct.
Most likely from the knife.
Possibly.
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 You've seen the pictures.
I have.
Was there visible blood stains on that screen?
Yes.
Were those visible blood stains on the whole window, or were those just in the cut?
Near the cut.
Near the cut? Or in the cut?
Including in the cut, yes.
Yeah. Now, you talked about staging a crime scene. Do you recall that testimony?
I do.
Okay. What does it mean to stage a crime scene?
To give it the appearance of something that it's not.
Okay. So, if a person committed this murder and wanted it to look like there was a break-in through the window, which would mean that the person would have to come in and out through that window. Do you agree with that? Or most likely come in and out through the window?
To make it look like they came in and out the window? Yes.
Okay. Would that potentially include wanting police to think that upon leaving, they got caught up in the curtains and pulled the curtains out with them as they went through the window?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
Why?
I think logically in my mind, you would just cut it and leave it at that.
Based on?
You don't think you would take the extra step to make it look like somebody really had gone through that window?
No.
Okay. Have you thought about what you would do on a murder scene like that before?
In what role?
The murderer.
If I were trying to stage it, I would cut it and just leave it to be found at some point.
Okay.
I don't want anything laying outside the window to draw attention to it sooner than it's going to be found.
Mr. Coons, again, there's no question for you.
There was. He was answering your question, Mr. Nelson, so let him finish it. You can finish your answer.
So if I'm the murderer and I want it to look like someone came in and out the window, I would cut the window, leave it there, knowing it's eventually going to be found, and not have anything on the ground outside drawing attention to it to be found quicker than it might otherwise be found naturally.
Because you still want to get away before it's found.
If Marty had staged this, do you think that he would have left the window where it was?
I don't know.
Excuse me.
I don't know.
Would it have made more sense than him removing it, taking it to the shop?
Your Honor, he testified he didn't know, and then to follow up on an I don't know question. I don't know how he's going to be able to answer that.
Overruled. He can answer it, if he can.
I don't know, and if I'm wrong on this, I will admit that, but it was my assumption that the frame and all were on the ground.
Okay. That was your assumption, but the evidence we have in this case is
if
that
it's wrong, I'll own that, yes.
Okay. Been wrong on a few things here, haven't you?
Argumentative? Is that a question?
I'll withdraw that, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, you did testify on direct that you believe that Gordon would have checked the door when he was trying to check on Anita.
I would have if it were me, yes.
Okay. Are you a parent?
Yes.
Okay. So if you put yourself in Gordon's shoes, you would have done the same thing?
Yes.
Okay. So does it stand to reason that the door was locked and that's why he had to go find Laura?
I do believe it was locked. I just don't know for sure.
But you believe that it was locked?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the only statement, we're talking about Marty here, the only statement that Marty had a collection of knives came from a statement from a Vern Olson.
Correct.
Okay. Did you talk to Vern Olson?
I did not.
Did anyone with Veracity IIR speak to Mr. Olson?
No.
Did anyone, like an investigator for San Law, talk to Mr. Olson?
Not to my knowledge.
There's conflicting argument about where the screen was found. Conflicting testimony. But the person who found it said it was in the window.
Maybe should have been something that should have been looked into.
If I were investigating, I would have, yes. But I was hired to review the existing investigation and weigh in on that.
So you didn't do your own investigation. You just reviewed somebody else's investigation.
Correct.
Okay. So you're aware that that part about Vern Olson saying that Marty had those knives was never verified by anyone else?
Not to my knowledge.
And you were here with when Carmen Asham testified.
I was.
And you heard Carmen Asham testify that the Minot Police Department was never able to verify that Marty had knives.
I heard her say that, yes.
Okay. Any idea where those knives might have gone?
I have no idea.
Okay. So we don't really know if he did have knives or not, or if Vern was even telling the truth.
Correct.
Okay.
The maintenance guy said he found it on the ground.
We've already
in the
established
window.
you weren't here for Laura's testimony, right?
Correct.
You didn't watch it online?
I did not.
Okay. Which means you're not aware that Laura testified that Marty didn't have knives?
I'm not aware.
Okay.
Ask me on a break. We'll talk about the maintenance guy in the window and where it was found and why we have conflicting testimony.
Now, the testimony that Detective Asham gave yesterday, Sergeant Asham, was about Marty not having the motive, means, and opportunity. Do you recall that?
Yes.
But on direct, it was only limited to one of those three things.
Yes.
What was the only thing that was asked of you on direct?
Means.
Okay. Do Do you think that Marty had a motive?
Possibly.
Possibly.
He might have wanted to sexually assault her. He might have wanted to rob. I have no idea.
But you don't know.
I don't know.
These are assumptions.
Yes.
Speculations.
Correct.
Okay. Are you aware of Marty ever sexually assaulting anyone?
No.
And you testified already that you looked through his criminal history.
Correct.
Okay. Now let's talk about Devin Hall. You testified that Devin Hall originally said June 2nd, arrival in Minot, and then changed it.
Correct.
Okay. And you watched that video, you testified to it. I believe you said it was originally VHS and then transmitted into digital, or I'm not exactly how sure that works, but that's how you watched it, was digitally.
Correct.
Of Devin Hall at the train station in Minot.
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever ridden the Empire Builder?
Have I ever ridden what?
The Empire Builder?
No. Train?
You know what the Empire Builder is?
I do not.
The Empire Builder is the train that runs from Chicago to Seattle and Portland.
Okay.
That's the train that Devin Hall rode.
Okay.
The Amtrak train. Did you look into the Amtrak?
Some aspects of it, yes.
But you didn't bother to figure out which train it was?
I looked at the records in the Discovery.
Okay. So you don't know how long the Empire Builder tends to be, do you? By that I mean how many cars?
I have no idea.
Okay. Now, I've ridden the Empire Builder quite a few times. Would you have any reason to doubt when I tell you that there's approximately 12 to 14 cars behind the locomotives on that train?
No clue about that.
Okay. Have you ever ridden Amtrak?
I have.
When was the last time you rode Amtrak?
It was a fall break. My wife's teacher, we went from Chicago to New Mexico. Southwest Chief, I believe it's called.
Okay. But the question was when?
Oh, I'm sorry. 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay. Do you recall when you bought the tickets for that you were able to choose which car you were going to be in, other than the special cars, the special rooms versus the coach?
I don't recall a lot about that. I did it online on the app, and I just told it what class we wanted, and I don't think I chose exactly what car or seat.
When you got to the train, did the conductor tell you which car you were going to get into?
No.
I'm sorry?
I don't think so, no.
The conductor didn't tell you which car to get on?
I knew which train to get on. I don't recall being told specifically to get on a certain car of that train. I just don't remember.
Now, you saw on that trip, you would have seen people coming and going, because you're talking about from Indianapolis to the southwest, it's a fair distance.
Yes.
Okay. Those people would have had to figure out where they're going to go on the train, right?
I guess.
Okay. Do you recall having a piece of paper stuck above your seat saying where you were exiting the train?
I don't recall, no.
Okay. But it's been 5 years since you were on Amtrak.
Yes.
So you really don't know how Amtrak works that much, do you?
Not very well, no.
Okay. Now, you testified that Devin Hall was not on the Amtrak records from the June 2nd and June 3rd.
Correct.
Okay. But you reviewed the entire file.
Yes.
And in that file, there were statements that he slipped a station agent $20 to get on that train without having to buy a ticket. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
You can do that?
So if he slipped the station agent $20 to get on that train, would there be any record of him being on that train?
If true, no.
Hang on.
Okay.
And all the rest of us have been paying the big bucks for the ticket?
Now, you testified you did watch that video when they in Minot.
Yes.
And you read the entire file.
I at least looked at it, yes.
Did you review the specific documents about police interviews of other individuals that were in that video?
I believe I saw some, yes.
Okay. And those people confirmed that they got off that train at about 9:30 on the 3rd of June in Minot?
Yes.
Okay. And that's the video that Devin Hall has seen outside the Amtrak station?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Devin Hall lived in Wolf Point, right?
Yes.
Do you know how long it takes to take the Amtrak from Wolf Point to Minot?
I don't.
Would you be surprised if, according to Amtrak, it takes 5 hours, 36 minutes?
Nope.
Okay, does that sound about accurate to you?
It would make sense, yes.
Okay. Now, if it takes approximately 5 hours, 36 minutes, and I corrected, actually, the time that it arrived in Minot was 9:20 p.m. on the 3rd of June. Does that sound right?
Correct.
Okay. Does that mean that you would have had to leave Wolf Point at approximately 3:30 p.m. if it takes 5 hours and 36 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. You know how long it takes to drive from Wolf Point to Minot?
I don't.
You didn't Google that when you were doing your research for this case?
I don't know how long it takes to drive from Wolf Point to Minot, no.
This is just painful.
Now, if
some of it was good, but some
I
of this is
Googled
just...
it this morning, and Google told me it was 3 hours, 42 minutes to go from Wolf Point to Minot. Does that sound accurate?
I have no reason not to believe that, no.
Okay. The question is, does it sound accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if we do a round trip there, so you multiply that by 2, 7 hours, 24-minute round trip.
Okay.
The math on that?
Yes.
Okay. So, what time do you think Anita died?
Roughly between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m.
And you think that a person that would have had to drive to Minot, commit the murder, drive back to Wolf Point, and then get on a train and come back to Minot is the most likely person to have done it? Yes?
I never said that that's how it went. No. So no.
Follow me here.
No, I don't agree with
Follow me here. You think that Devin Hall is the most likely suspect?
Yes.
Okay. And that's because your compatriots or former compatriots of the FBI, or part of it was because they thought it was the most likely suspect?
Yes.
Okay. If he was on that train, and multiple people gave statements that he was on that train, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did any of those people have a motive to lie?
Yes.
What was that motive?
Friends and family of his would possibly want to cover for him.
So you think that friends and family of a person accused of murder would cover for them?
It's possible.
It's possible.
It is.
So statements by the defendant's family and friends about where she was, is it possible they lied about where Nichole was?
It is possible.
Okay.
Yeah, he stepped in that one. Thank you for all the likes. We appreciate that. That really does help the channel.
Now, you testified that on that June 11th date when Devin Hall was arrested in Minot, that he had attempted sexual assault.
Yes.
That's not accurate, is it? Yeah, it was a different crime entirely, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so you were wrong on that.
I'm not.
It's okay to admit it.
I'm not going to admit to that one. No.
I
think that was his intention.
You think it was his intention?
Yes.
When he drunkenly went into an apartment, right? Do you know where he was staying at that time?
According to the records, he said his homeboys.
Which was at 804 Sioux Street, right?
No, that's his aunt's, I believe.
Yeah, but that's where he was staying.
But that's not what he told investigators.
Okay. Now, you remember that specifically, huh?
I do.
Okay. Is that because you thought it was a really important thing?
It was, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
But there's nothing in the file that indicates that he had attempted sexual assault that night, is there?
No.
Okay. But you think he did?
I think it's his intention. It was his intention.
Based on what?
Based on nothing?
That's the question.
If there's nothing in the file, what are you basing that on?
The entirety of the file?
There's nothing in the file. So what are you basing that on?
His subsequent convictions for similar activities in which he broke into homes and sexually assaulted women.
When you went through the FBI Academy, did you learn about criminals escalating their behavior?
I don't recall that specifically. It's been a long time ago.
Sure. Now, do you recall getting trainings over the 22 years that you were with the FBI that might have dealt with that?
Yes.
What is escalation?
As you mature as a criminal, your acts get more and more severe.
Okay. So, is it potentially an escalation from the first break-in to subsequent ones as far as sexually assaulting someone?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything in the file, then, that indicates he wasn't escalating?
They seem to be all similar, so I would say no, there's no escalation.
Okay. But that's just speculation on your part, isn't it?
It is.
Okay. Yeah. Has Devin Hall killed anyone?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Now, you testified about some jail calls regarding
Yes.
Devin Hall. When did those jail calls take place?
I don't remember the exact dates. I would have to refer back to the notes.
Okay. Now, your testimony was that he said it was his knife.
Yes.
Okay. Where did you get that information from?
There's a transcript in the file.
Transcript of what?
Of Devin's phone call to his family members.
Okay. Do you recall a interview that Detective Goodman did with Devin Hall out in Wolf Point,
Yes.
where he showed Devin Hall the knife?
Yes.
Isn't it true that Devin Hall said it looks like the knife that I had?
Yes.
Okay. But he never said in that interview that it was his knife, did it?
No.
He just said it looked like his knife.
In that interview, yes.
Okay. Now, you were here through Carmen Ashton's testimony.
Yes.
So you heard that that knife that Devin Hall thought looked like his was later turned into law enforcement.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you said that there were unique things about that knife.
Yes.
But then you said it was mass-produced.
Yes.
So exactly, help me understand how something can be both unique and mass-produced.
The missing emblem is the big thing.
Okay. This is a cheap knife, isn't it?
I don't know how much it costs.
Okay. There was testimony to that it was a cheap knife.
There was testimony to that. I don't know how much it costs.
Okay. Do you have any reason to doubt that was a cheap knife?
Nope.
Does it look like a cheap knife?
I don't know. I haven't seen the actual physical knife. That would be helpful to know if it's cheap or not.
We can arrange that.
Now,
assuming we still have the knife. We do have the knife, right? Or
you
is it gone
testified that the odds of similar knives having similar missing medallions would be astronomical.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you're aware in this file that there was a belief that there was a missing pair of blue pajama bottoms with ducks on them.
I remember that.
Okay. And where it was a pair found?
I believe those were found in trash somewhere.
Mm-hmm. So law enforcement went to the dump where the trash from this apartment complex was and found a pair.
Yes.
In the same trash that came from this apartment complex?
Yes.
Were those the same pants that had belonged to Anita?
I think it was determined that they were, but I'm not sure.
Would it surprise you if you learned that those were not the same pants, that the ducks were different sizes?
It would not.
Okay. You think it's astronomical for there to be a missing pair of pants and a pair of pants that matched that description found that weren't the same pants?
Yeah, it's a pretty big coincidence for sure.
Okay. So big coincidences happen sometimes.
They do.
Okay. Now, you testified on direct about Becky Ehrman talking about this
Apparently
person
the duck size
running.
matters.
Correct.
You said that night. That was your testimony.
Yes.
This murder didn't take place at night, did it?
I'm sorry?
This murder did not take place at night, did it?
It would, if it were between 5 and 7, I believe it would still be dark. So it's in the morning, but night being dark, semantics.
This is June 4 of 2007.
Okay.
When is the summer solstice?
I don't know.
June 21.
Okay.
June 21, 22, somewhere in that range. That would be how many days before this?
Didn't come here to math.
13, 14, something like that?
17, 18.
17, 18. Okay.
Do you know how daylight works when it gets closer to the solstice?
Days get longer.
Okay. But my question is, the amount of daylight you gain on a daily basis, are you aware that it gets shorter every day as you get closer to the solstice?
I'm not aware of exactly how it works. I don't know what the lighting conditions were at the time.
Okay. So this is not something that you've had to figure out in your 22 years as a law
I've done it.
enforcement officer?
I've done it before on other cases. Yes.
Okay. Now, Minot's a fairly northern city, isn't it?
Yes.
So Minot has, in the summertime, Minot would have a longer day than, say, Dallas, Texas.
Correct.
Okay. And you still think it was that night?
I know what time it was.
Okay.
I'm not going to comment on the
Okay.
light.
We'll move along. And you said that that was highly coincidental that somebody would be running in that area around the time of the murder.
Yes.
People go for runs, don't they?
It was described. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Now, you thought it was odd, or you testified, that person that was running must have washed their hands, but they left their bloody shirt on. Explain that to me.
I didn't say anything about anyone washing their hands.
The hands were clean, according to the witness.
Is there a question?
Is
No.
that not accurate?
Now it's a question.
In the statement I read of Becky Ehrman, I don't recall her talking about his hands were clean.
Okay. Now, Nichole was the one talking about the murderer washing their hands in the sink. Do you recall that?
No.
Which would account for the bowl of water in the sink.
Okay.
Okay. Now, you testified earlier that some of the documents, and there's about 6,000 pages, 7,000. It's a lot, isn't it?
It's a lot.
Okay. Some of those pages are more valuable than others.
Correct.
I would imagine, if I was in your shoes, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the statements given by the defendant would be incredibly valuable pieces to go over.
Yes.
Would that mean that you would have spent more time on those than potentially, say, for example, the page involving the false lead about the person who was in jail the whole time?
Yes.
Okay. And you don't recall that? About Nichole saying that the murderer must have washed their hands?
I do not.
Glossed over that one, didn't you?
Answer, Your Honor.
Sustained. He does not recall.
Okay. Now, you testified based on your knowledge of the case that the FBI thought that Devin Hall was the most likely suspect?
Strongest suspect, yes.
Okay. Is there a difference between most likely and strongest?
No, not really.
Okay.
One is about muscle
And that would have
strength.
been based on the information that the FBI was given?
Correct.
Because the FBI is not an all-knowing agency, are they?
Nope.
Okay.
That would be the CIA.
Just like your testimony is only based on the information that you were given.
Exactly.
And you didn't interview any of these people?
I did not.
Okay. Okay. Now, do you recall your investigative report?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall saying in that report that the break-in that Devin Hall did on June 11 was in the same apartment complex that the murder took place in?
Yes, that's a mistake.
I'm sorry?
Yes, that's a mistake.
Okay. How far apart are they?
I don't know in terms of miles, but they're on the other side of town.
Okay. Completely different quadrants of Minot, aren't they?
Yes.
So the murder is on the North Hill, which is the north end of Minot, and Sioux Street is on the southeast portion of Minot.
That's correct.
Okay. Do you think that's an important detail?
It is.
Okay.
Lots of details here. This witness sort of set himself up for this. I don't think he's prepared as he should have been.
You testified, or excuse me, you wrote, let me clarify, because we're talking about the report here. You wrote that you don't think that the defendant would have had a reasonable reason for murder.
No.
What is a reasonable reason for murder?
It could be different things. What I read was petty bickering between roommates.
Okay. Now, do people, you were involved in 15 murder investigations.
Roughly.
About 6, I think you said you were the lead detective, or the lead investigator.
Yes.
Were all of those murders what you would consider reasonable murders?
Some more than others. It just depends. You know, there's infidelity is sometimes a reason. Snitching is often the reason. There's a variety of reasons, but nothing about like your alarm clock wouldn't go off.
Okay. Now, we had a murder in Minot a few years back that the reason for the murder was a TV remote control. Would that strike you as a reasonable or unreasonable murder?
Depends what
Yes,
was on
unreasonable.
I'm sorry?
Unreasonable.
Unreasonable. So people sometimes kill in unreasonable circumstances.
Sometimes.
So a situation that you yourself couldn't see someone pulling the trigger, stabbing someone else could go ahead and do that.
Yes.
Okay. Testimony from Carmen Asham about the holdbacks from law enforcement.
Yes.
And those holdbacks in this case were things like that Anita was wearing a robe. You heard that?
Yes.
That how she was laying.
Yes.
That about the bowl in the sink even was a holdback.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you didn't watch, let me ask you this. Did you watch the testimony from Brenda Glintz?
No.
And you weren't in court for that testimony either?
I was not.
Okay. So, do you have any explanation, because Brenda testified that her niece, the defendant, told her about how Anita was laying, that she was wearing a robe, and the scene of the crime?
I don't know what she said in here.
That wasn't my question. My question is this.
Here comes an
The
objection.
testimony was that Nichole said, this is how Anita was laid on the bed. That she looked peaceful and wearing her robe, and then talking about the Tupperware in the sink. Do you have any explanation as to how the defendant could have possessed that knowledge at the time of that statement?
Your Honor, that calls for speculation. One, he wasn't here for the testimony. Two, he's asking to get inside the defendant's brain.
He's allowed to speculate.
Yeah, but we certified him as an expert in investigation so that he can answer the question. Your objection's overruled.
Okay.
If she actually told her that, I can't explain why she would say that.
Now, that's the sort of information that could only come from someone who was in the apartment, correct?
Correct.
Thank you, Selena.
So the only logical explanation is that she had to have been, if that statement is true. You're with me so far?
I am.
If that statement is true and it was testified to, the only logical conclusion is that the defendant was in that apartment before she said she was.
Correct.
If it's false, it's the luckiest guess on the face of the planet. Or somebody talked before the police did the holdback.
Was identified, wasn't it? The running man?
A runner was came forward.
And he came forward shortly after the police released the details about that?
Yes.
I believe he had the most unfortunate last name I've ever seen in my life, of Raper.
I wasn't aware of his last name, but yes, that is unfortunate.
His last name is Raper.
Now you're aware of it because there's a picture of Adam Raper next to the sketch. That would have been in the discovery.
Yes.
Okay. Your report here says that the defendant sent a text message to Anita well after the time of death.
Yes.
You say it is unlikely Rice would text Knutson if she knew she was already deceased.
Correct.
Investigators very briefly considered this, but then dismissed the idea. Is that accurate?
I think he left part of it out.
I can show it to you.
Yes. They considered, can I elaborate?
Hang on a second. There's kind of a line here of blank.
Yeah, it didn't, when I converted from Word to PDF, it put a line in there.
I think we all have that experience of putting stuff together that doesn't quite line up right. So I commiserate with that.
You made a mistake, prosecutor, after telling him he made a mistake.
Now, you think that it's more likely that the defendant didn't know that Anita was dead?
That's my opinion, yes.
Based on what?
She's sending her a text well after she is deceased. It doesn't look to me as if it were a ruse or a staged text to make it look as if she was not already aware.
So that's speculation, isn't it?
It is.
Okay. You're not giving Nichole a whole lot of credit here, are you?
No, I don't think she's a sophisticated killer.
Okay. Now, the only statements we have from Nichole's family about where Nichole was have quite a gap in there, don't we? As far as time.
Depends on when are you referring to?
Well, I'm talking about the date of the murder.
Okay.
There's a significant gap where it's missing from the alibi because people were sleeping, that sort of thing.
During the hours when she claims to be sleeping, yes, that's a long time.
So there is no actual alibi person who can testify that she never left the farm during those times.
Correct.
Because they were sleeping?
That time frame, was that sufficient for her to go back to the apartment and commit the murder?
It is enough time, yes.
Okay. So we don't really have an alibi for that time period, do we?
We do not.
We have an alibi, but it's not confirmable.
Now you have some information that I don't have regarding a interview done of Brenda Glenn's.
Yes.
Okay. Who interviewed Brenda Glenn's?
The defense has a private investigator that did some legwork.
Okay. What was that legwork?
Interviewing a number of people, including Brenda.
Okay. So their investigator reached out to multiple people, including Brenda?
Yes. 3 that I know of.
3 that you know of.
Yes.
Who else did that investigator reach out to?
Alyssa Lyer, who was the cousin that I talked about, who traveled from the family event to the bar to her house to watch a movie, and Alyssa's mother, Joyce Anderson.
So you have no knowledge of that investigator reaching out to Devin Hall?
I don't.
Or Vern Olson, or anyone else involved in this?
No.
Now, you're an expert in investigations.
Yes.
You certified to that already in this trial.
Yes.
Do you think that they did a decent job investigating this case?
I would say no. I would have interviewed those people.
Okay. Did they ask you who they should be interviewing?
No. My role was consultant to review the discovery.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. Is the state implying that the defendant has an obligation to investigate this case?
No, it was a direct question as to whether or not his opinion is that you did a sufficient job. So I don't know if he's implying that or not. He asked the question directly, and your expert answered it. So I'm not sure what your objection is.
Withdrawn, Your Honor.
Next. Mr. Nelson, are you close to a stopping point?
Fairly close, Your Honor.
Okay.
I know. Take a break, we certainly can, Your Honor.
I am aware that I have that power, Mr. Nelson. I was just asking Alfred if you were close or not.
Well, I do think I have a few more questions, but I would not be opposed to a break.
Then I will exercise my authority. We will take a break. The time is 10:15. We've been at it for almost a couple hours. So we will take a short break till 10:30, 15 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, once again, I'm going to give you my admonition. Do not converse with any witnesses, any party, or any attorney in this case concerning any matter. Direct any questions.
Yeah, there we go. Judge says...
I'm the one who gets to say that.
I'm the one who gets to say that. All right, 15-minute break. We have a couple things we need to talk about. The screen. Why is there conflicting testimony about the screen? And the reason is this. We have, let's see here. Jump back here. Where's 7? Why is that going for? Okay. I'm not sure. I didn't save the part where I talked about the screen, but we have a Marty, who was the maintenance guy at the apartments, who told police he found the screen in the window, and then we have the victim's dad, who told police that Marty told him he found it on the ground, and then somebody was asking the victim's dad where the screen was found, how far from the building. And he said, he's like, 100 feet. I don't know. It wasn't me. I didn't find it. That's where we get the confusion about the where the screen was, but the going report is that the screen was in the window, according to Marty, who is no longer with us. Sadly, he ended his own life, and so we can only speculate as to what was actually accurate or if there was something misspoken at one point. But the testimony is that was that. About the keys, we were going to talk about these keys before. I brought a lock. This is what a lock looks like if you take it out of a door. This is a really, really nice lock. This is one made by a company called Medico. And Medico makes a brilliant lock. When they first came out with this, I believe there was a contest where they said, hey, if you can pick this lock, we will pay you $50,000. That contest stood for, I don't know, it was like 12 or 15 years or something before somebody finally was able to pick it. This is a very secure lock. This is a key that cannot be copied at a hardware store. You think, oh, it's just a key. Anybody can cut one. You know, if you got the right tools. Well, yeah, if you have the right tools, and that's the rub. Let me show you why. Here. Let's go close up so you can see. If you look at this key, first of all, it has a couple things on it. It does say on here, that's the description. Let's look at the other side. There we go. Do not duplicate. The very bottom, right above my finger, right there. Do not duplicate. That does not stop anybody. That's not the reason this cannot be copied. The reason it can't be copied is because of what's happening both here, which is the profile of the key. You have to have a blank that fits this profile, so it's very difficult to get a hold of because the company does not sell these. And even if you were able to make your own, you have to have a machine that can cut this bitting, these funky little notches, and the angle on the bitting, because each of these notches are cut at different angles. Meaning this lock on the inside, instead of just having a row of pins that are lifted up to the right height when the key is inserted in like this, they have to be lifted up to the right height, and they have to rotate to the right degree, as well as push a sidebar and everything else, and then the lock can turn. So this is a very secure key that cannot be copied at a hardware store. The problem with this particular lock at this apartment is that, you get to say that, is that it was a common lock, and it was one that, just because it would just stamp saying do not duplicate. That's all the testimony you had. It said don't copy on it. Anybody could do it if they had the right equipment. All right. Schmoopy says, you have a hangnail. Where? My nails are even clean. All right. Our version of Yale. I'm thinking it's probably like a quick set. If this apartment complex is cheap, it's probably a quick set lock or something like that knows a lot about a lot of things. I know a little about a lot of things, I think I'll say. Sky Mama. Any DNA under the fingernails? Don't think so. I think I'm good. All right. Any other questions we were waiting on? If you can slip the rail guy $20 to ride for free, you can bribe a key cutter. Point. Yes, that's a great point. $20. Well, it's not riding for free. It's a $20 ticket. How much would it normally cost for that trip? I'm sure it's probably more than $20. But you have to slip the $20 to the right person, because don't they come around and check your tickets? Doesn't the conductor come around to check your tickets? And that's a pretty public place to be like, oh, here's a 20. Just keep walking. You have to have a key to copy first. It's helpful to have a key to copy first. You can copy them based on the code. The bitting, the depth of the notches on a key like this corresponds to a numeric value. And so if you know the number and the sequence they're in, and how many notches there are, you can cut that from that code. It's called decoding a key. A lot of keys actually have the code stamped on it, which is a fun fact. If you have your keys and you like photograph your keys, it's like, hey, just arrived at the hotel, and you've got a little picture of the hotel key with the little hotel fob and your key attached to it. If you have one old, like if it's not a credit card type key, yes, somebody can cut a key and get into your hotel from that picture. unless it's a high security lock. Walmart make you cut your own keys now? Man, you got to scan your own stuff, cut your own keys, pick up all the stuff out of the murder aisle yourself. That's crazy. Has anyone tried anything with this DNA recently, or is it gone? I don't know. We haven't heard a ton about the DNA other than it came back to one unidentified male. Soon you'll be stocking the shelves, says Abel. Yes. When are we going to do predictions on guilty, not guilty? As soon as the defense, because they are presenting evidence, as soon as they are done, we will offer that for you. Those machines never cut my keys good. I always go to Ace Hardware for keys. I used one of the automated kiosks in a Lowe's, and you go through, you pay your little money, you swipe your card or whatever, and pay your money, and it cuts the key, and you can watch it, and then it kicks it out, and it drops the key inside the machine, and it never comes out. I'm like, we have a problem. My dad is a locksmith and would never cut a key if it said "do not duplicate." There's an honor among locksmiths. Actually, locksmiths are they generally are a tight-knit group. They like to think that the secrets of the trade belong to them and them alone. I say this because I've studied with a couple of them. I've been trained by a couple of them, and I at one point was debating before I did this if I wanted to become a locksmith. Had a mentor locksmith company owner who was training me and giving me a lot of information and everything. It's hard. They like to keep the secrets. The internet has fixed that problem. The internet has all the answers, and people like Lockpicking Lawyer will tell you everything about every lock and how to defeat it online. So, love it. Let's see. Anything else? This trial was moved from Minot to Grand Forks due to pre-trial publicity. It was moved. Change of venue. Who lived in that apartment before the girls? Do they change the locks before the girls took the apartment? I think most apartment owners don't change the locks between renters unless keys have been lost. Like if keys were not returned, then you might have an issue. I change the codes on my Airbnb. It's a digital lock every single time. Got a call here.
Call from Fractured 23.
Fractured 23, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Fabulous.
So I just had something to say about the locks, because here, like, I don't know if it's the same over there, but here in Canada where I live, my landlord, I asked her to get the locks changed. So she called Better Locksmiths to come and change my locks, and they bring this van and they cut the keys in the van when they put the locks on. Now, here's the thing. You can take that key to anywhere you want and get it recreated. The problem is when you do that and you bring it home and you try it in your door, you've ruined the lock. The key you just got cut will not open your door, but it will also ruin the lock, like the deadbolt, the doorknob, whichever, because the locks that I have, it's the same key for the deadbolt and the door handle. And that's how it works over here, which is why they say they can't be cut. I don't know if it's the same over there, but that was my experience here.
Do you know the brand of the lock?
I have it up there. It's buried up on top of my fridge, but I went through two of them before I realized that, like, I actually need to either call the locksmith, which was like so crooked. The amount that they charged for two locks was absurd. Oh, yeah. It was like $180 for two locks. And then when they came back out to cut the key, it was like $85 a key. And I'm like, are you for real? I've got two kids that need keys. There's me. And at that time I had a partner. I'm like, no. And then two for my landlord. No, I'm not doing none of that. I went right down to Home Hardware and I bought the locks there, and I handed my landlord back her. But yeah, that's how they work here.
Let me tell you, when you're paying a locksmith, you're not paying them for the time it takes them to do the work. You're paying them for all the experience and equipment it takes to do the work. I've opened locks for people previously, not here in North Carolina because I don't want to confess to something that would be illegal. But I've done some helped out a friend, in a pinch, and oftentimes they're surprised at how long it takes a locksmith to open a door, meaning in seconds to open a door. And I've done it. I've done a less than 30-second open when they've spent hours and all these keys and tried to cut it with things, and it's a hardened lock and they can't cut it, and the lock's like mangled, and you show up and you're like, oh, it's like this. There you go. And they're like, how do you do that? And it's like, as long as you know how the lock works and how to defeat it, it's actually a fairly simple process, because locks are meant to keep honest people honest, and the criminals are not concerned with that. But $180, that's a good rate, honestly.
Well, it was like, it's just I don't know, when the place I lived at before that, they had a different locksmith that they used, which I could go get those keys cut, which was pretty handy considering, like I said, I got kids that need keys, and we all know what kids do with anything and everything. They lose it. It's just gone in seconds of giving it to them. They don't got it no more. But what I thought was, it blew my mind that, like, when I went and got it cut, it wasn't the key that was damaged. The key, it didn't unlock the door. It was the deadbolt inside the deadbolt itself that was damaged. And when Better Locksmiths came back, he was like, that's why I told you don't get it cut. And I'm like, yeah, but you want to charge an arm and a leg for another key. Like, you'd have my whole body at this point. Like, you just might as well move in and raise these kids. Like, I don't know.
Are you single? Is that the next line? Oh my goodness.
No, he was. When I said you may as well just move in and raise these kids, he was like, no, there's too many of them. I'm like, right?
Yeah.
But
Fracture 23.
anyhow,
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I have to look up that lock. I'm curious about how that works. Unless it was some sort of a chip that has to be reset.
Yeah,
so it's like
I don't know.
It's like
I'm
a digital key and a physical key functioning at the same time. But
yeah, it's just it looked like a regular key, and I didn't think nothing about going to get a new one cut until I came home, and then I ruined the lock.
Yeah.
Like, I was big mad. My landlord was also big mad. She's like, I told you not to do that. And I'm like, yeah, but you
$180.
Come on, why do you gotta go to all these people? $80 a key. Like, no, I can't do any of that. But anyways, happy belated birthday. I was so glad I got to share it with you. You make everybody else's day special. I hope yours was amazing.
It was
and
great.
I will talk to you later.
Had a great day in court. Thanks, Fracture 23. Always great talking to you. We'll catch you again. We'll see you. Bye.
Bye.
That's why they warn you, don't copy the keys, right? That's interesting. Is it true that it's possible to duplicate a key with soap? On a simple key with a common design, say like a quick set key, yes. All you're doing is basically recording the depth of the when you. It's not. I would say it's not easy to do with something like a piece of wood to carve down to make a key out of that. But as long as you know how deep to cut the notches on another key, you can do it with a file in your garage and make another one. You just need a blank that matches that profile or the keyway. It should offer a discount for multiple keys. A lot of them do. See. I have keyless entry locks. We have one on our Airbnb, and we have a new code generated for every renter, and so I can monitor every time the door's opened, who opened it and with what code, and when. I keep a record of everything. All right, I feel like this judge is favoring the defense a lot. I think he's being pretty fair. It's the defense's turn. I think he was pretty fair to the state as well. I like him. If you mess up as a lawyer, he's going to call you out on it. Saw a video of somebody copying a key with a 3D printer yesterday. The materials for 3D printing are getting better, and their accuracy or their resolution, I think, is the proper term for it, which is how detailed the print can be. is also getting better. But a key, a lot of times, can have a fair amount of tension put on it when twisting it. So it's got to be a strong material to work. There are too many missing witnesses to give her a fair trial, in my amateur opinion. That's one of the difficulties of having a case that comes to trial 18 years after the murder. Teresa says, I live in Minot, and the locks might have been a quick lock. I know that it's a cheap apartment rental place, so no expensive locks. I like the judge. I do as well. We're counting how many times he has sort of come down with a band hammer, and we're up to 56 right now. My lock is a 2x4. It's pretty effective. Is there a backstory to this case? I'm new to your lives. Tanya, thanks for being here, first of all. Welcome. This particular case is a roommates that are, they were not good friends, but they were roommates. And Nichole is the defendant, and she's charged with murdering Anita. Nichole says she was away, with family at these other things at work or the club or everywhere but the apartment when this happened. But Anita was found stabbed to death on her bed in her apartment. The screen in the window had been cut, but in a manner that investigators felt that nobody would fit through. And she was stabbed in a bathrobe under the blankets, laying on her bed, sort of in a kneeling position. And imagine yourself kneeling and then leaning forward onto the pillow. So in that position. And she was stabbed twice in the chest. The issue here is that the investigation was, I would say, had elements of problems. There was evidence that was missing from the file. There's supposedly people who filed reports with the police that should have been in the file that there's no record of, and this became a cold case, and it remained a cold case until a TV show called Cold Justice came to town and said, we'd like to look at this case, give us access. We'll do some interviews. They were there for about 10 days, dug some stuff up, talked to people, talked to those people whose reports were missing from the file. And then after Cold Case did that, the police said, I think we've got enough to charge. And they charged Anita Rice with this murder.
We're back on the record. The time is 33 minutes after 10 o'clock. Parties are
we're
present.
Going back to court.
Counsel, jury is not present. Mr. Nelson, anything else before I bring in the jury?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Mr. Sand?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right, please bring in the jury.
We're coming back in a minute. Hang on. Bretta just regifted the internet to Greeners. Congratulations, Greeners. Let's see if I can get the image working for us here.
Mr. Nelson, do you waive roll call of the jury?
State waives roll call, Your Honor.
Mr. Sand?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Nelson, had you completed your cross-examination?
I had not, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Coons, can you come back up again, please? Once again, you're still under oath, sir.
Now, you testified that the defendant was interviewed multiple times.
Yes.
I believe it's 5 times?
Sounds right.
Okay. I'm just going to run through the list that I have. Twice on June 4th of 2007.
Okay.
Once on June 11th of 2007.
Yes.
May 6th of 2010.
Okay.
And then not until March 12th of 2022.
Correct.
Okay. Now, the statements regarding that we've heard testified to, that she did it, the details, all that took place after those 2007 interviews, correct?
Correct.
Okay. After she'd been interviewed multiple times by law enforcement. 3
Correct.
times already. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, assuming that Nichole is the murderer When she's interviewed by law enforcement, would you expect her to say that she was in Minot at any of those times? Any of those 5 interviews?
No.
Why?
It does not behoove one to be near the crime scene at the time.
Especially
if they're not.
Behoove? Bingo.
Especially if they're not?
If they weren't there, yeah.
Okay. But we're assuming that she did commit the murder for this question. Okay? You follow me?
Objection, Your Honor. The fact
Sustained.
that yeah.
Okay. You wouldn't expect her to say that she had been in Minot because that would implicate her, wouldn't it?
Same objection. We're on the same line of questioning, Your Honor.
Well, the line of questioning is appropriate. The technique may not be appropriate. Can you rephrase your question, please, Mr. Nelson?
If she had stated that she was in or around Minot at the time of the murder, would that have provided law enforcement with evidence potentially connecting her to the murder?
Your Honor, speculation.
We've gotten quite a bit of speculation testimony from this witness as it is, Your Honor.
We have, and again, speculation is sufficient and appropriate with an expert.
However,
no, I'm going to overrule the objection. He can answer the question if he can, Mr. Nelson.
Can you repeat it, please?
Sure. If Nichole had told law enforcement that she would have, let me put it this way, she had told law enforcement that she was in or around Minot at approximately the time of the murder. Follow me so far?
Yep.
Okay. If she had told law enforcement that, would that tend to make her a stronger suspect?
It would.
Okay. Now, Tyler Schmaltz and Michael Van, they were both alibied, correct?
Yes.
And you know that from your reviewing the entirety of the file?
I mean, there's some degree of alibi, yes.
Okay. But they were alibied, correct?
There are alibis, yes.
There are alibis for both of them?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when Devin Hall was arrested on June 11th,
okay,
2007, this is the break-in in the south end of Minot that we've established was way far from their apartment on the north side.
Right.
Okay. Are you aware if he was drunk and high at that point?
I'm pretty sure he was drunk. I don't know about high.
You don't recall reading that he was high in marijuana in your review of...
I don't think he was, blood tested for it. I think he said that he was.
Mr. Coons, we don't blood test for marijuana. We use urine tests for marijuana. It doesn't show up in blood.
Okay. He was not tested for it. So
Are you aware of that, Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Then why would you say he wasn't blood tested?
He wasn't blood tested for the alcohol nor drug tested.
The officers noted that, though, didn't they?
Yes.
Okay. Any reason to discount the officers' belief?
No.
Now, I took a look at your professional website, and it is a professional-looking website for Veracity IIR. So you did well with that, right?
Thank you.
Okay.
That's underhanded.
That was a bit of a compliment. I wasn't trying to trap you with that. Now, on your website, I saw clips of you doing interviews, things of that nature.
Yes.
Okay. Why do you have those on your website?
Your Honor, relevance?
Mr. Nelson, you going somewhere with this?
I have just 1 or 2 questions, and I'll be done.
All right. I'll overrule the objection. Please make it connected somehow.
I will, Your Honor.
I am occasionally contacted by news media to provide my insight into whatever the incident of the day was.
Okay. So you put that up there to show that you know things about certain things, right?
Yes.
It's promoting your own business.
It is.
Okay. After this cross-examination, are you planning on putting the video of your testimony today on your website?
Your Honor, relevance to the case at hand.
It goes to his belief in what he's testifying to, Your Honor.
Asking
his
about
credibility.
That hasn't happened.
Sustained.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Sand, do you have any redirect?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Thank you.
Here we go. They're going to dial it up a notch. Strike back. What was the website? Is it Veracity? Is it
No,
VRC
Mr. Coons,
Investigations?
on cross, you were asked a lot of yes and no questions, and it sounded like you wanted to get some answers out and a chance to explain yourself regarding those yes or no answers. Does that sound fair?
It does.
Okay, well, hopefully we have an opportunity to do that. I'm going to kind of work chronologically through the state's cross, so I don't mean to be jumping around from topic to topic, but I took notes just trying to follow along with their cross, so if that happens, please excuse me. One of the first things they brought up was how many investigations that you had conducted while you were at the FBI, or how many investigations you had been a part of. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay, and it sounded like you were going to testify regarding the timeline of your career at the FBI. Would that be fair to say?
It's fair.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit more about the timeline regarding investigations during your career at the FBI?
Found the website.
Yes. During my first 6 years in Sioux Falls, the first 4 or 5 of them were mostly crimes on Indian reservations. There was a lot of volume there. After September 11th, my focus became on counterterrorism. Very few cases, but they were long, ongoing cases at that time. In 2006, I was transferred to FBI headquarters, and that was at the time I became a supervisor. I didn't work any cases. I was program oversight for the WMD Chemical Countermeasures Unit. So for 2 years, I worked no cases of my own. And then when I went back to the field after my stint at headquarters, I was the Field Intelligence Group supervisor for I think another couple of years. So there was a 4-year period that I did not work any cases of my own. After that, I was made the team leader of Special Operations Group, which is mostly surveillance. So my team was detailed to typically keep under surveillance high priority targets such as terrorists, spies, public corruption, those kind of things. Those were not my own cases. After that, I became a human intelligence specialist, in which I recruited and developed informants to provide information for other ongoing cases. So none of those were my own. So more than half of my career, I did not have my own caseload.
And so just to be clear, your time, you said in the field. Can you elaborate on what that means?
So time in the field, it can mean different things, but as a case agent, a regular special agent works cases. A supervisory special agent does not typically work cases. They supervise those who do. And then in the roles that I was placed after being a supervisor, the nature of them did not lead to me having my own caseload either.
So when you did have your own caseload when you were in the field,
yes.
Can you please explain to the court what years that would have been?
So that would have been after the academy. I think I showed up in Sioux Falls in the spring of 2007. I'm sorry, 97, and then so 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 11 years I had a caseload.
So 97 till about 2008. Is that fair? Is that the math you gave?
97 to about 2006.
Okay. So when you were when the state attempted to discredit you regarding search warrants and the law changing in 2018, you didn't have your own caseload.
No, I was not working my own cases at that time. I was not obtaining CSLI for myself at that time.
And CSLI, can you please explain again what that is?
Cell site location information.
And that was used in this case in one particular instance, correct?
On one individual, yes.
And who again was that?
Gio Rodriguez.
But it was not used to determine the whereabouts of the accused, Ms. Rice, correct?
Correct.
What do you think of that?
It would have cleared this whole thing up.
Okay. Now, the next topic the state went on to was Tyler Schmalz and something about horror movies. Do you recall that?
I do.
You were asked about your knowledge of the horror movie industry?
Yes.
Okay. Does the fact that the horror industry is a big money business, as the state would say, affect your or change your opinion regarding Tyler Schmall's social media posts about horror scenes with knives?
No. My point was that it seems inappropriate for someone who is suspected in a murder involving a stabbing would put that type of material up on their page.
And the next topic had to do with towns involved in this case, and it sounded like the waters got a little muddied here, so I'm going to give you an opportunity to explain yourself, because like we said, you got the yes or no answers, but you didn't get to explain yourself. So do you recall being asked questions about towns like Sykeston, towns like Russo, towns like Velva?
Yes.
Okay. Now, how did you come to learn where these towns are?
I looked at a map on Google.
Okay. And can you give us a proximity, from your best understanding for looking at that map, how close Sykeston is to Velva?
If I'm recalling correctly, it's roughly hour and a half, 2 hours. And south and east, I believe.
And from your testimony and the testimony that you heard from Sergeant Asham, there's only one trip from Sykeston back to the Velva-Russo area, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so after that trip, all of the moving around happened between Velva, between Russo, between neighbors in the Velva-Russo area, correct?
Yes.
How big of an area is that?
Small.
Okay. How small, if you can testify to it, if not?
I believe I read or heard that it's roughly a 5-minute drive from
typo.
Joyce Anderson's house. That's where the cousin Alyssa Lyer also lives. It's about 5 minutes from that house to the Thomas house in Velva.
You had testified yesterday about people when they go home from college. Home doesn't necessarily mean they're...
Objection, Your Honor, this is beyond the scope.
Oh, we're talking about the towns.
Overruled. He can answer it.
Talking about going home for college, and what does you testified what home meant? Can you state that again?
Well, it can mean different things, was my point. And home, and I was guilty of it myself when I realized I had made a possibly confusing comment about home. In this case, there are two places she could mean, or that anyone could mean when talking about her home, where she lived in Minot, in the apartment with Anita, and her home where her parents lived and where she was raised.
The next thing that was brought up was Marty and Elle. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And the state had asked you if, to the best of your knowledge, if you knew that if Marty had any investigative experience or training. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, regarding the testimony that was brought up by the state and yourself regarding the curtain rods being thrown back into Anita's apartment. Now, does that make any common sense to do that? As just an individual, and let alone a maintenance man?
Objection, Your Honor, as to compound question.
Yeah, Mr. Sand, can you clarify it a little bit for us, please?
Does it make common sense to you for a maintenance man to throw curtain rods and curtains back into an apartment?
I guess it could. I mean, I would assume he's going to go fix the screen, come back, reinstall the frame with the new screen in it, put the rod and the curtain back up. But the rod and the curtain don't need to be repaired, so you also don't want to just leave it on the ground. So I guess it would make sense.
And you testified that you looked at this case file, correct?
Yes.
Did you look at any pictures of the crime scene, specifically
Yes.
Anita's bedroom?
Yes.
About how far away was Anita's body from the window?
Feet. Single digits.
Single digits feet. So would it be fair to say that it wouldn't be difficult for Marty to see her body there?
Yes, especially if it was already light out, as prosecution mentioned.
Do you find it odd to throw curtains and curtain rods into an apartment that contains a dead body?
Yes.
Why is that?
I would think you would stop what you're doing and call 911.
Now, there's been a lot of questions regarding the window, whether the screen or the window was on the building itself or whether it was on the ground. Do you recall that?
I do.
Were you there at the scene?
I was not.
When, after you review the case file, when law enforcement showed up, it's fair to say that the window had already been, the window was, the screen and the window were not on the building, correct?
Correct.
There's been a lot of questions from the state to you regarding your, not investigation into the case file that you were provided, but investigation into this case. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Now, you were hired as an expert witness to testify regarding the contents of the case file, correct?
Correct.
Were you hired as a private investigator, or were you contracted by the state or any government entity to do your own investigation into this case?
No.
You weren't supposed to be contacting witnesses or interviewing witnesses?
No.
Driving from Sykeston to Russo or Velva?
No.
Driving from Wolf Point to Minot?
No.
Riding the train?
Nope.
Your job was to review the case file, review what you think that how their investigation was conducted, correct?
Correct.
How do you think their investigation was conducted?
Not very well.
There you have it.
There are many loose ends that could still be.
Honor.
That's fine, Your Honor. I got another question. Okay. What would you have done differently if you were the investigator in this case?
In my opinion, there are a lot of loose ends that could still be tied down. I would do everything I could to tighten this up. It seems a little loose to me, and not just a little loose, it's loose. The knife issue, the Marty, all the stuff that we've talked about could be drilled down deeper.
Let's go piece by piece. You
DNA.
You mentioned the knife. What about the knife?
The knife, the transcript of him talking to his family is more telling to me than his interview with law enforcement, because he's got more reason to be deceptive to law enforcement than when talking to his family. And I can almost...
Your Honor, I don't know who we're talking about when the witness says he here.
Devin Hall.
Okay, well, thanks for clarifying. Continue.
When Devin Hall speaks to his family, I can almost say this verbatim, but I'm not going to say it's verbatim because I don't have it in front of me. But he tells family members, I had that knife they showed me. I took it from Jaron's house, and I told him I lost it somewhere. That's powerful to me.
You also mentioned Marty, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. If I'm mischaracterizing your testimony, please correct me, but it sounds like you said the knife, and then you said that you do a somewhat different investigation regarding Marty and Nell. Can you speak to that?
I would have interviewed Vern Olson again. I would have interviewed more of his family members. The interviews are a little superficial, I would say. I know the cold justice people talked to him with the locals. They're giving him the benefit of the doubt, in my opinion. I feel like you could explore that more thoroughly. I wasn't satisfied, and same with some of the other subjects.
The next point or topic that the state went over was Ms. Knapp. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. And you had testified that you weren't here for Ms. Knapp's testimony, but you read her interviews and such?
Right. So I was under sequestration when she testified, but I have reviewed her statements that she gave that were included in the discovery that I was given.
What would you think if you found out that during her testimony she said that after Anita's murder, her and Marty, who were fiancés according to her testimony, never discussed Anita's murder?
Objection or leading?
It was a what question? What would you think?
Sustained. You can't just...
Yeah, I'm going to sustain the objection. Can you reword it?
Just because you said what doesn't mean it's not leading. How are you going to do this?
What, if any, thoughts would you have if you found out that Marty, Annelle, and Ms. Knapp never discussed Anita's murder after the murder?
That's suspicious. That's odd.
Why is that?
Because it's a big deal. You would talk about it with your fiance.
And coworker, is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would think that's big news. I would think there would be a lot of talk amongst everybody that had anything to do with it.
Especially if the murder happened at the apartment complex that you were in charge of?
Yes, absolutely.
What, if any, thoughts would you have if you found out that Ms. Knapp testified that Marty wasn't a big drinker?
That's contrary to what other people have said, but is what it is.
I'd like to move on to the next topic the state brought up was Devon Hall. There's a little jumping around. I'm going to try to keep it at least somewhat of a flow, some type of chronological flow, but I do want to address piece by piece what the state has brought up. They brought up the train records. Now, you had testified earlier that you did not see Devon Hall in the train records, correct?
I did not see him in the actual records, no.
Okay. They tried to clear that up by saying that Devon had slipped a gate agent $20 to get on the train. Do you have any experience that that would be something that could occur?
I have no experience with that.
Okay.
He's never bribed the gate agent.
And you testified earlier that there's absolutely no evidence of whether physical or otherwise of Devon Hall getting off the train in the video that we're talking about, correct?
Correct.
And this is the Wested video?
Yeah, you can see him walking, but I don't see him. I've watched that several times. I don't see him coming out of a car.
And regardless, you had testified that video couldn't be accurately dated, correct?
Correct.
It said, the video said something about the year 2000?
I believe it's 1/1/2000 or something like that.
Is it fair to say that the state was attempting to prove a negative here?
That's fair.
Can you explain that, please?
I believe they're trying to suggest that he could not be responsible for the murder because they have this video, but there's no evidence that the video was taken on the day that would have precluded him from being in Minot.
So, can't trust the video, not on the train records, can't put Devon on the train on any day, correct?
No, other than the other witnesses that were in his group, or with his friends and family, I should say.
In your review of the case file, did you find any evidence of Devon actually saying that he came to Minot on the 2nd?
Yes.
Okay, can you explain that?
In his very first interview after his arrest on the 11th, he said it was the 2nd, June 2nd, 2007.
So there's been some questions and some testimony regarding when Devon Hall gets to Minot, and if the timing lines up of his ability to be able to kill Anita. If he got to Minot on the 2nd, and Anita wasn't killed until the early hours of the 3rd, he could have killed Anita, right?
Correct.
Now, you were also asked a little bit about his criminal history, and I think something came up about him having murdered anybody before. Are you basing that off of the fact that he doesn't have any murder convictions?
Yes.
Okay, but he's got several other convictions, correct?
He does.
Okay. A lot for breaking and entering, right?
Yes.
A lot of stuff with knives.
Yes.
Speaking of knives, there was, I guess, an example given by the state regarding the statement that you had given regarding how the chances of there being separate knives in this case being astronomical, that it had to be Devon's knife, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and the example that they gave had something to do with some pants that had some ducks on them, right?
Yes.
And that they were looking for these pants. They found a different pair of pants that were similar that were in a trash can, right?
Yes.
Did the example of the pants factor into the equation that the pants had been used in the commission of a murder?
No.
So there's that extra detail there, right?
Yes.
Does that add into the fact you factoring into the case that it's an astronomical coincidence that there are these two knives that are missing medallions that are used in a murder that are, I mean, is that fair to say?
It's fair.
Now the next topic that the state talked about was the runner or the jogger. We'll call him the jogger, just to be fair. If anybody has an objection to that, I'm happy to change the characterization. You had testified when being questioned by the state that a runner had came forward, but you weren't able to explain your answer. I have no idea what your answer is going to be, but I want to give you the opportunity to explain what you're going to say.
Sure. In Becky Ehrman's statement, part of it was that someone was running hard, like running away from something, not just out for a jog. That's paraphrased.
In reviewing Ms. Ehrman's reports, what was that runner wearing, or that jogger wearing?
White T-shirt, gym shorts, tennis shoes, clean-shaven, short but not too short hair in a state of disarray. 6'2", 6 foot to 6'2", I believe, roughly 200 pounds. That's all I remember.
Anything on the shirt?
The shirt looked like it had blood or dirt on it, on the right side specifically.
How about the ethnicity?
Native American.
Now, aside from the ethnicity, I'm talking about the blood, talking about the attire the person was wearing. Is that typical characterization about somebody out for a morning jog?
No.
Is it more typical about of a characterization of somebody running away from a crime scene?
Yes.
Does that description fit any suspect in this case?
It fits Devon Hall almost exactly.
Next point that the state made was regarding Devon Hall, his location in Minot, from the time of the murder to the time of his subsequent arrest, where he broke into that other apartment. Do you recall that?
Can you repeat, please?
Sure. That was convoluted. I apologize. So the next topic we talked about was Hall's whereabouts in Minot. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the state asked you some questions about the distance between Anita Knutson's apartment and where Devon was arrested, a week or so later?
Correct.
And you said you had a chance to look at these cities and towns on Google Maps, correct?
Yes.
Would you state that Minot is a vast metropolis?
It is not.
Yeah. Is it fair to say that it's reasonable for a person to get from one end of Minot to the other within a week or week and a half's time?
Yes.
And I don't mean to be funny, but is that reasonable to assume?
Yes.
The next topic that the state brought up was Brenda Glynn's, and I know that you stated you weren't here for her testimony because you were under sequestration, but that you did review her interview with Sergeant Asham and the representative from Cold Justice, correct?
Correct.
And you sat in Sergeant Asham's testimony, correct?
Yes.
And the state had asked you some questions regarding Nichole's statements.
Yes.
And that was regarding some, what they're characterizing as holdback evidence, but evidence in the case, something about the robe, something about other things from the crime scene, right?
Correct.
Now, Sergeant Asham testified that this occurred in 2008, correct?
Yes.
A year after the murder, correct?
A year after, correct.
Now, Brenda had testified that it was 4 to 6 weeks after the murder, but that got cleared up by Sergeant Asham and by the materials you reviewed in the case file, correct? That was 2008.
The materials I reviewed were 2008, yes.
And Sergeant Asham's testimony was that the New Mexico trip was 2008, correct?
Yes.
And actually that Nichole in 2007 was in a different state. She was in Arizona.
Yes.
So there's no confusing Arizona and New Mexico. So the time frame had to be New Mexico, 2008.
That's my understanding, yes.
Thank you. Next topic was statements made by Nichole's family, and the state had brought up some, and asked you some questions regarding alibi witnesses between the hours of that the murder may have occurred, correct?
Yes.
And it's your testimony earlier that Nichole had been at her parents' house somewhere around 11 p.m. on Saturday night to the following Sunday morning, when she was next seen around somewhere around 8 in the morning. Around when people wake up.
That sounds right.
And the state had said that, had asked you that there was no alibi witness that Ms. Rice could produce during those hours, and you responded in the affirmative. Is that correct?
Correct.
Would it be typical for somebody to have an alibi witness during sleeping hours?
No.
Now, if she left the farm in her car, went to Minot, killed somebody, and came back, do you think there's a high probability that somebody would have saw her, that she might have woken somebody up at the farm?
Yes.
Did that happen in this case?
No.
Is there any evidence whatsoever that you've seen that Nichole went to Minot, killed somebody, and came back to her parents' house, went back to bed on the couch undetected, and went about her day the next day without anybody being the wiser?
No.
Next topic that was brought up were Nichole's interviews. I think that the state had asked you to affirm that there were 5 interviews. Do you remember that?
Yes.
The first interview being June 4th at the crime scene, correct?
Correct.
Now, you testified that you've been around a lot of crime scenes.
Yes.
Can you talk to the court about what goes on at a crime scene?
Crime scenes are it's not like TV. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting. It's a meticulous, painstaking process of first photographing everything, identifying what might be evidence, marking it, photographing it again, collecting it properly, documenting it properly, and then taking it away.
So there's a lot of processing of evidence. Is there a lot of discussion of evidence?
There is.
Okay, and if somebody was brought to the crime scene and they were around that, is it fair to say that they would hear about the circumstances of the crime?
They could, yes.
Now, you're given a lot of hypotheticals by the state, and there are a lot of assumptions made. There was an assumption about if Nichole was in Minot, could she have done this, could she have done that? Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, you reviewed the case, and would you say is it fair to say that there's strong evidence that Devin Hall was in Minot during the time of the murder?
There is.
This may sound like a very basic question. What would you rather rely on if you're an investigator that is recommending charges to law enforcement? Assumptions and hypotheticals, or strong concrete evidence?
Strong concrete evidence, of course.
No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you very much, Agent Kuntz.
Thank you.
Mr. Nelson, do you have any recross?
I do, Your Honor.
Something we haven't heard, though, right?
Well, stuff that was brought up on redirect here.
That's funny.
Which was exactly the same stuff we heard on direct and cross. So
I just need to make sure a few things are clarified.
All right.
That's a banhammer. Hager's hammer.
Help me understand your timeline. Sounds like you were an active agent as far as with the FBI for roughly 10 years or so, where you were the one that was actually doing investigations.
Let's see. So I started in Sioux Falls in the spring of '97 after the academy, and then I was transferred to Bloomington, Indiana in 2002, and then was there until 2006 when I went to headquarters. So 2006 is when I became more of a pencil pusher.
Okay. So 2006 is when you became a pencil pusher.
Correct. And then I did that for a while. Towards the end of my career, I stepped down and was working surveillance and human source development.
Now, that means that by my math, you haven't been the one responsible for investigations, as at least the FBI is concerned, since 2006, which is nearly 20 years ago.
Not as the case agent.
Okay. I was concerned about something you testified to. You said that you were supervising other agents in 2015.
Let's see. From 2000, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, that's incorrect. It's on my CV, whatever the exact years are.
Okay.
That I was a
Take a look here.
supervisor.
Well, the problem is that your CV only, at least the CV that I have, just says Federal Bureau of Investigation 1996 through September of 2018. It doesn't include dates.
In 2015, I would have either been working on Special Operations Group, which is mostly surveillance, or developing human sources. So I would have been a field agent at that time again.
Okay. Part of your job being in law enforcement to keep up on changes in case law?
Your Honor, this is beyond the scope of redirect, and it's been addressed.
They asked about what he was doing at the time, and I think it's quite relevant that to his expert opinion on whether or not he kept up with case law.
Your Honor, we didn't bring up case law.
They did not. It's beyond their, it was beyond their redirect.
But it has to do with his job supervising other agents.
You're questioning that he wasn't qualified to supervise other agents? Is that what you're trying to say?
What I'm questioning is experienced law enforcement keep up on case law to make sure that they're doing things the right way and that they don't get things overturned or non-prosecuted, that sort of thing. What I'm wondering is, if he's supervising other agents in 2015,
Was
why
he not
would
keeping up on case law? I heard
Yes.
the question.
Yes.
Oh,
Goes to his
overruled. He can answer the question.
Can you repeat, please?
Sure. So you were supervising other agents around 2015?
Yes. No, I just said that I was either working on Special Operations Group, doing mostly surveillance, or I was working human source development.
Okay. But you weren't keeping up on decisions from the Supreme Court of the United States? As
In
far
those
as
in those roles, I would.
You need to wait till I finish my question.
Go ahead.
You weren't waiting, or excuse me. You weren't keeping up on decisions that came down from the Supreme Court of the United States regarding what you could and could not do in investigations?
Your Honor, I'm going to renew my objection. This is beyond the scope of redirect.
It goes to his training experience, Your Honor.
They had an opportunity
Again,
on cross.
Stop. We've already heard this, Mr. Nelson.
I'll move on, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Does he have anything left?
Now, we've established previously that you were not present or watching online when Detective Barnard testified.
For the fourth time, we've done that.
Yes. So you did not hear Detective Barnard say that he couldn't see the body inside the window either?
No.
Okay. Do you have any reason to doubt that?
No.
Based on that, would there be any reason that you would expect that Marty would have seen it either when he threw the curtain and the curtain rod into the window?
I would expect someone to be more curious about why the window is out and look in, yes.
Okay. Detective Barnard was a licensed peace officer, state of North Dakota, an investigator. Correct?
I will take your word for it.
All right.
yes.
You have no reason to doubt that.
No.
And Marty Annell was not an investigator.
Correct.
You seem to be putting quite a bit of weight on a layperson's interpretation versus a professional's interpretation.
Barnard should have seen it too.
There it is.
Now, we've established through the redirect there that you were never at the scene on June 4th of 2007.
Nope.
So it's pure speculation that Barnard should have seen her.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you watched that reenactment video, correct?
Yes.
All right.
I don't believe I brought up the reenactment video on redirect, Your Honor.
He did not, Mr. Nelson.
Your Honor, it's more going towards that the room was dark, so it's hard to see.
I didn't bring up the lighting of the room either, Your Honor.
Sustained.
I'll move on, Your Honor.
I want a Snickers now, too.
Now, you were present for Detective Carmen Asham's testimony.
Yes.
So you heard that the murder weapon, which you've got the photographs up there, is currently in evidence at the Minot Police Department.
Yes.
And you also heard testimony that the knife that Devin Hall had that was then given back to Jerome Vivier, is also in evidence at the Minot Police Department.
Your Honor, I didn't bring up physical evidence during redirect.
Sustained.
Your Honor, it was brought up about the knife.
Testimony regarding the knife was, and phone recordings were. The physical evidence of the knife and its location were not brought up, Your Honor.
The testimony on redirect was I took it from Jerome's house.
Sustained, Mr. Nelson.
He's not happy.
Last time you took Amtrak was 5 years ago, right?
I'm sorry, I was coughing.
I have been coughing a lot myself. I've got it. Feel free to stop by for a cough drop if you need one when we're done here.
I'm good, thanks.
All right.
Sound bite.
Last time you took Amtrak was about 5 years ago.
Yes.
All right.
The only time.
The only time? It's the only time you've ever ridden Amtrak?
It is.
Your Honor, I did not ask any questions about him riding the Amtrak on redirect.
Your Honor, the question on redirect was about Devin Hall taking Amtrak, and then there was speculation from the witness. That's what I'm getting at.
No, overruled. One more time.
I will try again, Your Honor. The file says that Devin Hall made a statement that he slipped the gate guy $20 to ride the Amtrak without getting a ticket. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now you said that you have on redirect that you have no experience doing that.
No.
Slipping 20s? Your Honor, I'd object. That was not brought up on redirect.
That was, Your Honor.
No, that one was. He can answer the question.
So you've never slipped a $20 bill to an Amtrak person to take a ride without getting in the system?
Never.
Okay.
Depends. The state guys,
Which means
everybody does this.
Can you testify based on your experience and your knowledge if you could or could not do that?
No.
Okay. So there's no basis for you to know that that's not something you could do?
Nope.
Okay. Defense was asking about proving a negative about the video. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Redirect? But on cross, you admitted that there are statements from the people in the video saying that they were there at that time, 9:20 p.m. on June 3rd.
Yes.
Okay. So there is corroboration for that video.
I never have a 20 to slip
Yes.
to anybody.
Okay. Now that first interview that Devin Hall did that you just testified on redirect on June 11th, you recall testifying about that?
Yes.
And on my cross, you testified that Hall was, according to the file, drunk and high during that interview.
Yes.
Now, I assume that over the course of 100 or so investigations that you've done as a agent of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, that at a certain point you might have interviewed someone who was drunk and or high or both.
I might have started them. If I determine they're drunk or high, I don't continue the interview.
Why is that?
It's not going to, it's going to have problems and legally later.
You don't think that a person who's drunk or high or both is going to give a solid statement?
They might, but they might not. And if they're not in a state of mind to provide good answers, then I'm going to wait till they're sober if I am aware that they are intoxicated.
So you're aware that Devin Hall was intoxicated on June 11th when he was interviewed?
Yes.
And you're aware that in that interview is when he said that he was in Minot on June 2nd?
Yes.
But you just said that a person in that condition is in no condition to give a statement.
I would not have done it, no.
Okay. So you discount his statement from that day?
I don't discount it. I just would not have done it in the first place.
Okay.
I'm going by by the documents that I was given.
Now, you testified that Devin Hall was a terrible criminal.
I did
is
not.
a terrible criminal.
I did not say that.
I believe that was brought up on redirect, that he keeps getting caught.
Yeah, He keeps getting, I never said anything about him being a terrible criminal.
That might be just my notes. I apologize. I was trying to take notes fast and I might have shorthanded something. He keeps getting caught, doesn't he?
He does.
You think if he'd murdered someone that he likely would have been caught?
Possibly.
Okay. That running man that came forward, did he match the description from Becky's description?
Yes.
Okay. In your experience, when people go out for runs, things like that, do they sometimes wear grubby clothes?
For running?
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
I dress up.
He might wear old clothes. I don't know about grubby. What do you mean by grubby?
Okay, you might wear old clothes. It might be stained.
It's possible.
Okay. You're not dressing up for court, say, when you're out for a run at a certain time in the morning.
Correct.
So you're not trying to look your best, necessarily.
Right.
Lululemon objects.
Is there any evidence in the file that
sorry.
Devin Hall was ever on the north side of Minot?
No.
In fact, he said he wasn't on the north side of Minot, didn't he?
On the 11th?
No. Later on when he's interviewed, during the interview at Wolf Point by Detective Goodman, he said he was never on the north side of Minot, didn't he?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you testified that there was no evidence that the defendant came back to the farm. In other words, that she left and came back.
Depends on what you're talking about.
We're talking about the time of the murder here. You testified that there was no evidence that the defendant left the farm and returned to the farm.
Left the farm and returned to the farm?
Yes.
I mean, she went from the farm to the family gathering, to the bar, to the cousin's house, and then back to the... Do you mean back to Minot and then back to the farm? Okay.
Because this is my understanding of what your testimony was, and correct me if I'm wrong, that your testimony was that there was no evidence the defendant, the morning of the murder, left the farm, went to Minot, and returned to the farm.
Correct.
And the information that there's no evidence from that comes from the defendant's family, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You testified earlier that family has a motive to lie.
Correct.
Your Honor, that's mischaracterization. He testified that families have a motive to lie, not Ms. Rice's family.
The question was, a family has a motive to lie.
Yes, I heard the testimony. Next question, Mr. Nelson.
Phil. I'm not sure if this will work. I'm going to try this, Phil, with your account. Hang on.
Those knives that we're talking about here, the knife that actually killed Anita and then the knife that was turned in by Jerome Vivier. You've seen those.
Objection,
Again,
Your Honor.
Mr. Nelson, this goes beyond their redirect.
It does not, Your Honor. During redirect, there was things brought up about the astronomical stuff about the knives.
Not the physical knife, Your Honor.
Not. All right. No, Mr. Nelson. Next question.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Is your expert here by subpoena?
Your Honor, if I may, I have very brief 3 questions.
All right, Mr. Sand, go ahead.
You were asked about family members corroborating the video, but didn't you just state that family members have an inherent bias to lie?
Yes.
Would that be in the case of the video that Nova Westit took regarding the train station?
Yes.
Next question, you testified, or you were asked regarding whether it was likely that Devin Hall would have been caught, correct?
Yes.
Do we know how many crimes Devin Hall has committed that he has not been caught for?
We do not.
Final question regarding the state's question about the farm and the fact that there's no alibi witnesses. Do you recall that?
Yes.
However, you had testified that there is no cell site data regarding Ms. Rice's location, correct?
This is beyond the scope, Your Honor. Objection.
No, keep going. He can answer the question.
There is no cell site data regarding the location of Ms. Rice's phone.
Is it fair to say that if she drove to Minot, there might be some cell site data that she went to Minot?
It's the final question.
No further questions, Your Honor.
There you go.
All right, Mr. Nelson, one more chance. Anything else?
That cell site information would only be there if she actually had her phone with her. Correct?
You would still have it. It would be stationary for a period of time if she didn't have it with her and was traveling, if that's your point.
So the cell site information only comes from the phone's interaction with the cell towers.
Correct.
So if she left the phone at the farm, the phone would show that the phone was at the farm.
It would, but we'll never know that.
Okay. Now, I do want to clarify something on the video of Devon Hall at the train station on the 3rd of June. That was corroborated by people that are unrelated to Devon Hall, correct? That video took place at that time?
Your Honor, that's not what I brought up. I brought up family members.
That was, Your Honor.
We're deep in
No,
this.
he mentioned specifically the family, so I'll let him clarify it. Go ahead, Mr. Nelson.
If you mean unrelated by blood, yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And he's here by subpoena. Is he free to come and go?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objections, Mr. Nelson?
No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Come and go as you please.
Wow. We're going to take a lunch break right there, Judge. I'm going to call it.
Witness today, Mr. Sand.
Your Honor, may we approach?
You may.
I think it's going to be a lunch break. There's no way that's the only witness for the defense. I thought they had a couple experts. Wow. Wow. That back and forth, the ping-ponging from one to the other was quite interesting to watch and listen to. We've got the prison guy. Yeah, we've got him coming up over Zoom, right? The guy in jail by Zoom.
It's bigger than me. It's bigger.
It's bigger than all of us. I have to play that one manually.
It's bigger than you. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than all of us.
I don't know why that one doesn't work right.
I think I'm about to catch a whooping.
All right, just so we're clear on that, we had a little meeting at the bench here. Mr. Sand, is the state calling another witness?
One brief moment, Your Honor.
What? Are we done?
Thank you very much, Your Honor. The defense rests.
Whoa!
All right.
Whoa.
Ms. Sorgan, is the state going to be calling any rebuttal witnesses at this time?
The
if you need time to think about
the
that,
state's
that'd be
not
fine,
ready
but
for
if you
this.
have an idea now, I would like to know.
I will need a few minutes, Your Honor.
All right, I'll wait. You want to talk about it now or not?
If I could speak with Mr. Nelson and Ms. Asham out in the hallway, I'd appreciate that.
She is
Maybe
mad.
about a 5-minute recess.
She is mad.
Yeah, my thought is that I think I would prefer if we just broke for lunch and then came back at 1 o'clock.
Sure, that sounds great, Judge.
So the time is 11:30. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Yeah, we're going to give you we're going for lunch. We're going for lunch, and they cut the everything for that. Whoa, we just put up the poll. I realize there might be some rebuttal evidence that still comes in, so this might be a tiny bit premature, but our poll is up.
Please do not discuss the case. Do not allow anyone to discuss the case with you, and do not use the internet or other electronic technology in any attempt to learn information about this case or communicate with your family, friends, or anyone else about this case, and please do not form nor express any opinion about this case until I have given it to you for your deliberations. I will hope to repeat this instruction at each recess. If I fail to do so, it applies to you throughout the trial. Again, I'm breaking for lunch just because it's fairly close, and I'm not sure we want to start into something else. So please come back. We'll start at 1 o'clock precisely.
Okay, they're starting 1 o'clock, which gives us an hour and a half. They're an hour behind us. We'll be back. I've got the portal already set up to jump over for after lunch. So we're going to take this break as well. This is crazy. Here's why she's mad. The prosecutor is mad because the defense had a witness list with multiple people on it. They fought to be able to bring in the gentleman who's in jail. I use the term loosely. The gentleman who's in jail for another breaking and entering, the knife guy, Hall, over Zoom. They argued about that in court. They brought up other witnesses, other expert witnesses they fought over and to get access to and bring them in and everything else. And the state has been preparing to cross-examine these witnesses. And now defense says, we're done.
My understanding the defense is not going to be calling a particular witness that we had numerous discussions on, but those discussions were not in front of the jury, as far as I know. So the jury has no inkling of your concern with regard to whether that witness is going to be called or not called. So I just want to make it clear on the record that the opportunity to call additional witnesses, you have decided not to do that. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right. And again, what would happen now would be the rebuttal witnesses, if the state has any, they would like a few moments to do that. My thought is I'd kind of like to know that now because I'd like to go over closing instructions at some point here. We need to do that without the jury being present. So that having been said, I would like to recess us from now 11:33 till 11:45 and then come back and make a decision at that point. So we'll be in recess for 12 minutes. The jury's done till lunch. We're not yet. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, so there you hear it. The judge wants an answer before he goes to lunch. Are you going to call a rebuttal witness? Are you going to call a rebuttal witness? The state is mad. First of all, you have to line up a rebuttal witness. Rebuttal witnesses are typically experts who will counter something that the defense's expert might say. You have to have that person ready on standby to go right after lunch, because if they're not ready now, there's no way the judge is going to say, it's all right, we'll call an end to the day and we'll start again tomorrow. The judge is like, no, we're wasting the jury's time. You need it now. You need to be ready to go. I want to answer now. Tell me if you're going to call anybody, and if you are, they need to be here right after lunch because we're moving forward on this case. So yeah, there's a couple hammers that came in there. I'm going to count that as 2, if that works. Going from 65 to 67. If I can click properly, there we go. 67 hammers. The judge doesn't have to ask the defendant on the record if she wishes to testify. Each state does that a little differently, how they do that. That may have happened already. That may happen later on. I don't know. And sometimes it happens like off the record where we don't get to hear that. Let's see. Is this a defense strategy? Yes. Everything in trials is strategy. What this tells me is that the defense team is looking at this and saying, we won with this witness. We won. We did everything we wanted to do. We're in a better position than we thought we'd be in. We don't want to go because everything else is uncertain, right? You call Mr. Hall in, and you never know what he's going to say. This is a guy that's, could say anything. It could be good. It could be bad. We've already got a little bit of reasonable doubt there with him. Let's leave that and let it lie. We think that's hit with the jury. We've introduced plenty of doubt about the investigation, about the problems with the investigation. We brought up the affair, the inappropriate relationships with the lead investigator with somebody who was, looks like he was very shady and, brought a lot of shame and scorn upon the police department allegedly. We're done. We've introduced all the doubt. And so now we get 12 minutes. So we can't go to lunch quite yet. Devin Hall remains a mystery. No Zoom call from him. Our polls are different than some of the bigger channels out there. Interestingly, I think I was seeing on LNC they had a similar poll about guilt and innocence, and I think it was about 84, if I remember right, 84% of people were saying that they believed that she was guilty. We're showing about 59 or 60% saying no, the state has not proven the case. Now I realize the questions are a little bit different. If you ask someone, do you think she's guilty? A lot of people will say yes, even though they went later, if under a different question, say no, I would not convict. But let's see if Devin could call the burner phone. It would be a collect call. It would cost like $5 a minute. Let's see. Too much doubt in a weak case. Samantha, that's the defense's job. And I think they did a very good job of introducing doubt. The state was putting out fires. Every time defense got up, the state had to put out fires because defense lit into them, lit into the investigation, lit into the big question marks, the dirt that was under the rug. We exposed all that for the jury to see. And yes, it's true. The state has not proven anything like beyond reasonable doubt. What they have done is laid out a lot of circumstantial evidence, which the jury, under their instructions, is going to be told they can accept just as readily as hard evidence, as a video proof, as something they saw with their own eyes. I think the state has proven that Nichole should be a suspect in this case. That she was right to be a suspect and probably still should be a suspect. But I don't know if they've gotten far enough to get a conviction here. Really, it seems like we have a cold case, and I guess this is probably a pretty accurate description. We have a cold case that sat around for over a decade, that there was social pressure to put some action on, and they took action, but really don't have much more than what they had with when they decided it was a cold case and couldn't move forward. So it is a weak case. Doesn't mean the jury can't convict. It could happen. What would be the reason the defense subpoenaed Brenda Glintz? To keep her out of the courtroom, so the jury wouldn't see her, because she was she had her feelings written all over her face. And she wanted to sit there in court, and they didn't like it, so they subpoenaed her and said, "We might call you as a witness. You now can't be here," and she had to leave. Yeah, we see lawyers do that all the time. Aunt and uncle must be mad not being able to sit for arrest and not being called by the defense. Yeah, probably. She confessed twice, well drunk, to drunk people. Barb, that's what defense says. Someone please remind me where the trial is being held. North Dakota. It's Grand Forks, North Dakota. I think you live in Ghost. I would hate to be on her new husband right now. I always wonder about her. He's there supporting her. He's been in court every day. If she is found not guilty, then she cannot be tried again. That would be double jeopardy. Motive, means, and opportunity are there. I would not say... I differ from the last witness, the investigator. I don't think there are good reasons for murder. I think there are good reasons for homicide. Self-defense is one of them. Defense of others. Those are good reasons. Murder is the absence of some of those reasons of self-defense, I think. I don't think there are good reasons for that. We need to stop killing each other, people. Let's talk out our differences. I found drunk people are more honest than sober, though. Sometimes when they're drunk, they have loose lips. We can agree to disagree. We sure can. I've been wrong before, Greeners, as you know. Can't we all just get along? A drunk person is not going to make up a committed crime. it's that basically is saying that the being drunk is like truth serum. I know it will loosen your inhibitions. But what if one of those inhibitions is lying? Can being drunk loosen that? I mean, for instance, this is different, but some of the we've got a scam call. Hang on. Perfect timing. Hello. Hello.
Hi. My name is Jake. Are you the owner of the .11 acre piece of land in Pitt County in North Carolina?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I was just calling to see if you've ever considered selling before.
I have.
Okay. Do you have like a price point that you're looking to get for the property?
I believe that there's buried Civil War treasure on it. So my valuation of the property is probably a little higher than other people. But if I can get somebody with some equipment in there to dig there, I think that's where the Civil War gold was. And so I'd want to sell it, considering the potential windfall that will come to whoever digs it up.
Okay. But are there any structures on the property, or is it just vacant land?
No, it's ready to dig right now. There's one.
Okay.
There's one shed.
Okay. And how is the utility situation, like sewer and water?
It's clean. There's no pipes to get in the way. You can just dig right there.
Okay. All right. Okay. What would be the best time to give you a call back for the offer?
Now's good if you've got a number. I mean, I'm thinking it's got to be upwards of about. Let's see. There was about $8 million in gold Civil War time with the cost of the cost change. That was $35 an ounce. It's now up to $3,000 an ounce. So we're in the billions. I mean, what number do you have in mind?
Oh, that's well, I don't run the numbers, but that's why I ask a few information about the property, so I can get this over to my partner, and he's going to give you a call for.
It's a great opportunity, honestly. I mean, now's the time to get in. Gold's just rising, so it's it could be the last deal he ever has to do.
Yep, I'll take note of that, and you can expect a call from my partner in the next 24 to 48 hours.
Oh, I'm looking forward to
the
it.
offer. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Mm-hmm. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, wait. Are you still here? Hello? Hello? There's one more thing. Anyway. Well, you guys, apparently I'm about to strike it rich, so I'll give a little bit to each one of you if this deal goes through. You are all part of the negotiations, a key part. So, yes, it's true. I own a .11 acres of land in Pitt County. It is a strip of land too narrow to build a tough shed on. There is. It's tiny. It's tiny. Oh, okay. So prank calls and calls like this, cold call solicitations when I'm on the do not call list, do lessen my inhibitions. I guess it's like alcohol. And I am more inclined to lead them on a little bit. But here's what I'll say. Watch the news. If this deal goes through, I would be super excited to see on the news that somebody does in fact find the Civil War gold on my property, which would be great. I have the reason my firm belief in there being gold on my property is that I have been searching for it. I've not found it yet, meaning it's probably still there. I'm not sure if that logic holds up for other people, but for me it does work. So, all right. Screenshot the users watching. Send me your address so we can give you a piece of the pie. Oh, my goodness. This is the update. Both the state and defense have rested or waiting to resume right now to hear if the state is going to call any rebuttal witnesses to the one to the one, sorry, I'm getting texts. To the one witness they did call was an expert witness who struggled at times. There were points where initially he was doing very well, but there was a point where he was he was asked about timelines and dates, and the numbers, it just escaped him, and he tried to sort of bumble his way through, and he got them wrong, and they tried to correct him, and he got them wrong again, and they're trying to say this is really important. Eventually he had to just drop the dates altogether and just go with Saturday and Sunday. Because he just couldn't remember the dates. That, I think, hurt. It hurt the defense a little bit. Their expert, it sort of lessened his credibility when he just wasn't sure. And the comment about, I glanced at every page. This is a brag, right? This is a brag saying, I looked at everything. You guys didn't. I looked at everything. And they're like, oh, yeah, did he look at this? No, don't remember seeing that. I mean, I just glanced. I would have just looked at it and discounted it. And suddenly it looks like he cherry-picked information instead. But he was effective in introducing some doubt into the case. There's a buried hard drive with 3,000 Bitcoin. Yeah. Anyway, everyone's texting about the property. I think he wasn't prepared. I think the problem was he's done 2 years of work and he got paid $10,000. 2 years of work is a lot for an expert. $10,000 is low pay for that much work. If he was still on hourly, maybe he would have justified spending a little more time brushing up on the case, looking at some of those other details. It's surprising to me that they didn't have him watch previous to this. Oh, we're coming back. Hang on just 1 second. Nope, not yet. We're waiting. But Donald King says right now I'm 5150, just about split on the guilty
All right,
side.
we're back on the record. Time is 48 minutes after 11 o'clock. Jury's not present. Parties are present along with counsel. Both parties have rested their case in chief. The jury's been excused for lunch. We'll be back at 1 o'clock. The only question is to the state. Ms. Sorgan, is the state going to be calling rebuttal witnesses?
The state will not be calling rebuttal witnesses, Your Honor.
All right. So, next thing I'd like to do then is jury instructions. Has everybody had a chance to collect their jury instructions?
Yes, we have, Your Honor.
She's angry still. The cameraman has a little white camera that looks like an egg with a black end on it on top of his equipment back there. It is a
We're going
baby
to go through
monitor.
them one at a time. I will require a verbal acknowledgement of acceptance or objection.
Yes, Your Honor.
It's a baby monitor that's only a camera that shows him when the jury is there or not, because he can't see.
First is the cover page, closing instructions, has the attorneys listed. The first actual instruction is members of the jury.
No objection.
Defense?
Cover page.
Apparently, we're not going to get to hear this.
I think we might have done that on the preliminaries. We did not include you on the preliminaries. We did take out the second chair part, and we did take out Mr. Bain. So we will need to correct that again. And you would like your name added to William and Richard?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. We will do that. Okay, the first instruction, members of jury, as you both said, no issues. Second, in duty to accept law from court.
No objection. No objection.
I'm going to end the poll right now,
Next
so
one
watch
is
chat
murder,
for the results.
intentional or knowing or extreme indifference to the value of human life, along with the essential elements. It's a one-page instruction.
There were some modifications to be made to that, Your Honor.
Okay, let's talk about them, Ms. Sorgan.
Yes. Specifically in the first paragraph, Your Honor, the statement right after part of willfully causes the death of a human being under circumstances manifesting extreme indifference need to add to the value of before human life.
So you're requesting that we add the words after the word to, T-O, we're going to add the value of, and then human life is guilty of murder.
Yes, Your Honor, that mirrors the statute.
Okay. Ma'am?
No objection. Under the essential elements, number 1, to comport with the...
Needs to be June 2nd and June 3rd.
Second or third, yes, Your Honor. And Dakota should be capitalized.
Yes, thank you.
Your Honor, there's been no testimony regarding June 2nd, just the 3rd. Do you want to comport with the information, or...
Well, I do recall that we had the same discussion early on in the preliminary instructions that based on the information itself, it said June 2nd or 3rd. Ms. Sorgen's testimony, however, has borne out that it was the 3rd and not the 2nd.
We can remove the 2nd, just
Well,
as long as the 3rd's in there.
Okay. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
Okay. So we are going to change June 2nd to just June 3rd.
Expert name was D. Coons, K-O-U-N-S. D. Coons is his Twitter handle, like
There should be a
D-K-O-U-N-S.
semicolon after being, and before or.
Okay. Any objections to that change?
I have no objection to the semicolon. I'm not sure, under the first one, just capitalizing the D in Dakota.
Yes, she. I just went with that one without asking you. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Element 5, after defendant, stated putting forth the defendant's full name.
Okay.
As this is a charge in the alternative.
I'm not sure I'm following you.
Because it's a charge in the alternative, it was either intentionally knowing or willfully. That way her name is in with either alternative. It's a stylistic matter, Your Honor.
Okay, again, I appreciate that, but I'm still not following what you want. What it is you want changed?
Element 5.
The defendant willfully caused the death of Anita Knutson.
The defendant, Nichole Rice.
Ah. Okay.
Sorry, Judge, I should have been more clear on that.
Dr. Bullbutter, he has 15 followers on his YouTube channel. You go over there and hit him up. That way you're not lost in the crowd.
Any objections to that change?
I'll leave that to the court's discretion, Your Honor. She's already listed in element 2.
Poll results are going to show up in chat right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's stylistic or just better writing.
About 58% to 41%.
I'm inclined to
Not
add
guilty.
it, so we will put the comma and then the defendant's name. Another comma and then willfully caused. So I will agree with that change. Is that over your objection or not?
No, Your Honor, that's fine.
Okay. Last one.
And then the last, in element 6, adding again after
The value of.
difference, the value of, yes.
And again, for the defense, that appears to be the correct verbiage that's needed for that to be correct under the statute.
Yes, we agree, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much for that. Definitions is the next one.
No objection.
No objection.
Sometimes I think this paper's too thick. Okay, there we go. Next one is alibi.
It's 24 pound.
I'm not sure this is necessary, Your Honor. We didn't hear from any alibi witnesses.
The defense?
Your Honor, I believe Agent Coons provided sufficient testimony regarding his review of the file, And we provided notice of the alibi, but there's insufficient testimony to include this.
He actually testified, Your Honor, that she did not have an alibi for the time of murder.
I'm not sure if this is going to assist the jury or not. There has been testimony about alibi, both from state and the defense. Ms. Sorgan, do you believe that this definition would somehow skew the jury, or is again just the definition that gives them the understanding of what an alibi is?
Well, Your Honor, if we're going to call it a definition, I would say we should move it to the definitional section rather than having it in its own special section.
The defense?
Your Honor, I believe it's to keep it standard as it is. Like the court indicated, there's been sufficient testimony and testimony from both sides regarding the alibi. I don't believe that where it's at is going to confuse or mislead the jury in any way. Just keeping it reported with the standard jury instructions.
All right, the court is going to leave that in over the objection of the state. Next is proof of intent.
No objection.
No objection.
I don't recall any judicial notice. So that instruction's coming out. Next one is video evidence. I'm not sure, again, there has been video evidence. I believe there is. But I need to know if we need to fill in the blank. In this case, you observe video evidence. Leave it at that. When considering video evidence, you should evaluate it like any other piece of evidence. I don't know if we need to have the from part.
I'm fine with leaving out the from, Your Honor.
I'm fine with that as well.
Okay. So we'll put a period after evidence, and then it will be continued on. Again, I'm not sure if the first sentence should be by itself or whether it should be attached to the next paragraph. I think it should be left separately. So it will be 3 paragraphs. In this case, and then when considering, and you should consider. Any objections?
No.
Sorry, no?
No objection.
Okay. Next is opinion of expert.
No objection.
No objection.
Next is other acts or offenses.
I don't have an objection to this.
Well, we need to clean it up possibly based on the parentheses portion.
Your Honor, I'm not sure that there's been testimony regarding other acts. I don't know that we need this jury instruction.
All right. I had questions about it originally myself. Ms. Sorgan, is there some aspect of this that the state is looking for?
Well, Your Honor, the defense is the one that initially asked for this instruction, but...
I know that. That's why...
Yeah, but there has been testimony with regards to hostilities between Anita and the defendant. There have been testimony with regards to other statements that she's made. I believe this is the court's discretion as to whether or not this needs to stand.
All right. I'll ask...
There's been nothing that rises to the level of 404B material, so...
Right. And again, I'll defer to the defense. I believe this may have been your instruction. I don't see this as being necessary to assist the jurors in any way. If you have more information, can you assist the court?
Your Honor, I understand this was our initial one. From our understanding, it does govern more towards 404, and we haven't had any of that, so we have no objection to this taking it out.
All right, this instruction will be removed. Other acts or offenses. Next is lay opinion.
No objection. No objection.
Next is number of witnesses.
No objection. No objection.
Next is proof of fact by testimony of a single witness.
No objection. No objection.
Next would be impeachment.
No objection. No objection.
Next one is defendant not testifying.
No objection. No objection.
Next is duty of jury.
No objection.
No objection from the defense.
Next would be penalty or punishment.
No objection.
No objection.
Next would be deliberations and conduct of jury in retirement.
No objection.
What does that have? No, just kidding. When they retire
It's 2
to
pages.
deliberate.
No objection.
Next is forms of verdict with the court's signature.
No objection. I guess we could change it to singular form of verdict. Although the title isn't really an instruction.
That's a good point. The court does not read the titles, but you're right, it is there. We could change it to form. Is there any objection by the defense?
No objection.
Okay. That's just in the title, so we know. All right, last one is the verdict form itself.
No objection from the state.
No objection.
All right. I will have Ms. Osland rework them with regard to the page numbers, because we're going to take out 2 of them, and make the changes that we had discussed. I'll have them available to you when we return. Again, is there anything else then, Ms. Sorgan, before we break for lunch?
Just wanting to know what the court's timeline is for when we return, Your Honor.
1 o'clock?
And we'll be doing closing instructions and closing arguments then.
Yes, and
Okay.
just if I didn't make this clear before, which I'm pretty sure I did, you will do your closings first, then I will give them the instructions to the jury.
So
The
be
instructions
ready.
that we've agreed upon you can use during your closings. So again, I'll have them reworked for you when you come back, and they will be available for you for your closings.
Sure, Your Honor.
Anything else, Ms. Sorgan?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Sand?
Sure.
Or, I'm sorry, Eagle?
She's handling it.
Your Honor, just for clarification, are all witnesses released from their sequestration order and are allowed to be in the courtroom?
Yes.
As far as I know, since both parties have rested, the answer is yes.
Thank you.
Charges are closed.
All right, we'll be in recess till 1 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you.
Whoa. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. All right, so we are now ready to go to lunch. We've already talked about all the issues. The little hammering out they did there with the jury instructions. I liked how he did it. Instead of reading the entire thing, he read the headlines, expected each side to know what it said underneath the headline for each section, and if they had a problem with it, to let him know. And they did, and they were able to burn through the entire jury instructions in just minutes, which I like. One more reason we like this judge. All right, we're going to come back. They start at 1, which means it's 2 o'clock Eastern time, so we have 55 minutes before court starts. We'll be back probably 15 minutes early. I'll change the time on the portal. We are going to portal over to a new live stream. Thank you all very much for being here. We are so close. We're so close to 1,000 likes. Before you leave, if you can click the like before you go, we need 29 more. We'd like to hit 1,000 with each live stream. That would be absolutely fabulous. Well, 28 now. 28. So thank you. Thank you for those who clicked the like button. We're going to... Oh, no. What happened? Gabby, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We'll definitely keep your family in our prayers. I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm sorry for your loss. Tonight when you go home, please hug the people you love. Smile at someone, make their day just a little bit better. Please stay safe until we go live again right after lunch. We're going to be about 45 minutes. We'll see you after lunch. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you. Be good. Bye-bye.